Upon entering a Cultivation novel game, I became an NPC in the starter village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176 Performance. Dozens of kilometers away from Yunxi, the first and second leaders of the mountain stronghold were very excited. They had just robbed the caravan, which was out for business and had never walked this road before. Looking at the full cargo in the caravan, the two nodded secretly. With so many things, the third brother should no longer complain about the lack of food and clothing in the mountain stronghold. That's right, not only do we have so much cloth, even if we make 2 sets of clothes a year, it will be enough for our village to use for 10 years. And these foods are all high-quality rice and flour. If we go to the town to buy them ourselves, where can we buy such good rice and flour? It's a pity. I don't know if the owner of the caravan has a problem with his brain, and he actually brought so many mushrooms. This stuff is everywhere. The two leaders discussed it and decided to pull the goods back and come out again. This time the harvest is a lot, enough for them to eat for several years. The two faces were full of smiles, and they had no idea that the situation in the mountain stronghold had changed at this time. The two leaders of the mountain stronghold discussed the plan to go back that day, and set off with their bandits early the next morning. Because they had the goods, their speed was a little slower. But even if they disliked some of the goods, they didn't waste any of them and transported them all back to the village. When they returned to the village, it was already dusk. They excitedly dragged a lot of goods into the village gate, waiting for the people below to praise them, but they found that they stood at the door for a long time and no one came to greet them. The leader and the second leader of the village stood there stupidly for a while, looking at each other in confusion. At this moment, a bandit passed by in a hurry. The leader grabbed the man. "What's the matter? How come we have been back for so long, and no one came to greet us?" The bandit was impatient, and when he heard this familiar voice, his eyes were filled with tears. He held the leader's hand tightly, and looked at the second leader next to him, shaking with excitement. Boss. And second leader. You are finally back." Originally, the leader and the second leader were a little dissatisfied because no one greeted them. Seeing the bandits trembling with excitement when they saw him, he was immediately satisfied. They are still the beloved bandit leaders. The second in command looked at the seemingly empty village and wondered, did something big happen in the village? Oh no, the bandit suddenly remembered something and slapped his head. Time is almost up, I have to go to perform. As he said that, he hurriedly said goodbye and rushed out without bothering to explain. Only the first in command and his group who had just returned were left, guarding the goods and standing there blankly. The bandits hurriedly passed by a truckload of goods, and seemed to be busy with something important. The first in command and the second in command looked at this scene and couldn't help but become curious. If they had brought back so many things at ordinary times, everyone would have happily started a banquet, so how could they ignore them like this? The two asked the men who came back with them to put all the goods in the warehouse, and then hurriedly followed the crowd to the top of the mountain. "Isn't it Lao San's house?" The second in command looked out and saw a large group of people surrounding the house, tightly surrounding the entire house. If their house was not nearby, they might not be able to recognize whose house it was. What happened to Lao San? So many people are gathered here. Has Lao San been in trouble? Thinking of the bandits in the mountain village who suddenly became a little strange, the first in command frowned. The two looked at each other, quickened their pace, quickly squeezed through the crowd, and walked hard inside. The bandits had their backs to the two and did not see their faces, and they could not help but get angry. "What are you doing? Why are you squeezing? You don't even understand the first come first served." Hiss. Big boss, seeing that it was actually the first in command and the second in command, the people who had spoken harshly took a breath and apologized again and again. The two bandit leaders snorted coldly, anxious to see Lao San's situation, but ignored them. However, when they squeezed into the house and saw the scene inside, they were shocked and widened their eyes. The house, which was originally simply decorated, was full of flowers, with a soft blanket in the middle and exquisitely carved tables and chairs. The two women they brought back sat on chairs, lying sideways, watching the performance not far away. In front of them, the bandits came forward to perform one by one. Some performed breaking stones with their chests, and some sang and danced. There were all kinds of performances, which was very lively. Behind the two women, There were several bandits fanning them, serving tea, and peeling fruits. The first and second in command? Isn't this woman the one they robbed back? Are the people in the village crazy? Is it necessary to please her like this? After staring at her for a long time, they finally got angry. What are you doing? The first in command shouted angrily, wishing he could wake everyone up with a palm. No one greeted him, the first in command. These people were circling around a strange woman. What kind of talk? The third leader, who had been squatting quietly nearby, heard the sound, turned his head and saw them, and burst into tears on the spot. You are finally back. The first and second leaders were immediately stunned. The bandits around them suddenly showed a twisted expression that seemed to be excited and fearful, and their eyes were all looking at them. If they were not bandits, they even felt that they were saviors. The two paused and walked over slowly. However, the two women who were captured suddenly smiled and slowly stood up. This life is unbearable. A bandit was sweeping the floor, and suddenly threw the broom away and roared to the sky. Calm down, the third leader sighed and advised helplessly. Third leader, what should we do? You said before that we would be better off when the first and second leaders came back. These two women are definitely not defeated. But in the end, thinking of the two leaders who were hung on the gate of the village, the person who spoke couldn't help but tremble, and couldn't say the rest of the words. The other bandits passing by also turned their heads and looked expectantly at their military advisor, the third master. However, the third master himself was in a dilemma. How could he know what to do? What he said before was to persuade the bandits to be at ease, and also to persuade himself. Now that his beautiful dream was shattered, he was still confused. He lowered his head and thought for a long time, but he still hadn't come up with any good ideas. At this moment, several bandits suddenly ran over in a hurry. Third master, it's not good. Miss Lu said that in the future, a new kid will be responsible for delivering meals to her, and asked you to give the key to the warehouse to that kid. Third master, that kid is coming soon, you'd better run. The bandits who came to report the news had always been subordinates of the third master. They had taken a lot of things from him before, so they were still loyal to him. After reporting the news, the bandits didn't dare to stay any longer and ran away in a hurry. The third master stood there, his face changed for a while, and finally he just sighed deeply. Run away? Where can he run to? As long as he is still in this village, no one dares to disobey those two women. Who will be the manager in the village in the future will probably be appointed by that woman. Just as he was in a daze, the person who was said to be the new manager by the woman came over and politely asked him for the key to the warehouse. The third in command looked at the bandits chasing the new manager, saying nice things and giving gifts, and he couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. If he doesn't listen to that woman, can he continue to be the third in command in the future? He raised his head in fear, thinking of what the eldest and second in command had said to him before, gritted his teeth, and suddenly made up his mind. Since they couldn't beat that woman, they had to join. If he could convince the eldest and second in command, the woman should give him a better manager position. He didn't expect to surpass the status of the third in command before. But at least it shouldn't be too bad, going from a manager to a sweeper, right? Chapter 177 Collapse. Lu Yunxi sat on the chair and suddenly sighed. Miss Lu, are you worried about something? The boss chuckled and immediately fanned her with a flattering smile. No matter what the problem is, just leave it to me. Lu Yunxi glanced at him and didn't think that this guy could help her. Long A Ocean sent her a message. Because he had already contracted with her, Long A Ocean could communicate with her directly in his mind if he had anything to say. So she let Long A Ocean rest at Hua Wang's place. But a few days ago, it sent a message saying that Hua Wang's condition seemed a little bad. Now he was sleeping more and more and could no longer stay awake. In order to ensure his survival, it was also sleeping, and occasionally woke up to report to her that he was safe. Lu Yunxi became more and more anxious, wishing that she could break through the Grandmaster today, succeed in cultivating immortals tomorrow, and quickly restore the world to its original state. But when she thought about the fact that the more anxious she was before, the less her experience bar would grow, she could only barely calm herself down. I don't have any worries, I just suddenly want to sigh. She smiled and sat back. The eldest boss secretly gritted his teeth, feeling that he had been fooled. He suddenly recalled the words of the third boss. Brother, that woman is simply a monster. We can't win. We can only rely on this woman, make her happy, and make her willing to leave. I know it's hard, but we are not her opponents at all. If we don't listen to her, we might lose our lives one day and don't know what happened. Thinking of what the third brother said about trying to coax these two women, he forced a smile and went to the other woman to take a look. Like the woman just now, this woman also suddenly sighed. The eldest boss suddenly had a bad premonition. Could it be that this woman also suddenly wanted to sigh? Miss Joe, what are you sighing about? He lowered his head and asked with a smile. His eyes flashed. Joe looked at the ants on the ground, and was a little worried. Ants move and snakes cross the road. It will rain heavily tomorrow. The boss looked confused. Haven't you heard of this old saying? Joe took a deep breath. I'm worried that it will rain heavily in the next few days. Do you want to prepare? Prepare for what? The boss was even more confused. The second brother has gone to sort out the goods. If the house there is repaired, there is no need to worry about the goods. There are so many people living in thatched houses. If we don't repair them, what if it leaks? Joe twitched his eyes. Don't worry, it won't leak. We have lived here for so many years, and it's still fine, isn't it? The boss couldn't help laughing. Joe looked at his confident face and nodded with some concern. However, at night, Joe and Yunxi had just taken a bath and hadn't gone to bed yet. There was a rumble outside, and heavy rain poured down. Joe was frightened when he saw the tiles suddenly fall under his feet. Don't be afraid, this house is still stable, it just leaks a little bit. Yunxi smiled calmly. But I just asked the leader of the village today, and he said it wouldn't leak. Joe was a little angry. He didn't lie to me on purpose, did he? Of course he wouldn't lie to you, but they don't know how to repair the house themselves. You asked them. You really asked the wrong person. Yunxi shook his head. They probably don't know that the house on the hill has been in disrepair for a long time and can't bear it anymore. Yunxi stood by the window, listening to the sound of the house collapsing in the rain, with a complicated expression. Joe didn't have such a skill as her, and couldn't see anything through the rain curtain at all. She quickly found a slightly larger basin and placed it on the leaking place to wait for the water. One night passed. The sky washed by the rain was light blue and vast, which made people feel relaxed and happy. While Yunxi was still lazily looking at the scenery outside, Joe was frightened and screamed in an instant. What happened? Their houses have all collapsed. Joe looked at the scene outside, her pupils shaking wildly. Too scary. I wonder if they are still alive. As she said that, she looked worried, shook her head vigorously, and rushed out to check the situation outside. Yunxi was very calm. She had seen the houses here a long time ago, and naturally knew that the bandits would definitely survive, and at most they would be injured. And they might not need them to rescue them. Things turned out to be just as she expected. As the sun got bigger and bigger, the people trapped in the house were gradually rescued, but there were still some people who could not be found. The people living in the thatched houses were not injured, but the houses on the mountainside were not thatched houses, but mud brick houses. If the tiles fell, they would definitely hurt people. Thinking of this, Joe anxiously led people to dig at the collapsed house. Is there anyone? Is there anyone still down there? She shouted while moving the broken bricks and tiles above. Yunxi looked for a while, and seeing her so anxious, she felt a little helpless. Don't waste your energy. It's useless. No matter how hard you look, it's just a waste of energy. She squatted down, looked at Joe's hands full of scratches and dust, and patted Joe's shoulder. Tears kept welling up in Joe's eyes. After all, she had never seen a dead person. When she heard Yunxi's words, her face wrinkled instantly. Although I know they are bad guys, I still can't stand seeing them die in front of me. Joe tried hard to hold back her tears, sniffed, and felt a little embarrassed. Yunxi's expression became a little subtle. What are you talking about? When did I say they were dead? Joe widened his eyes in confusion. But Sister Lu, didn't you tell me not to dig anymore? And you said it would be a waste of energy to continue. It's indeed a waste of energy. The people in these rooms have moved out overnight. Of course you can't find anyone. Yunxi twitched her eyes and explained. What? Moved away? Joe repeated in disbelief, her chest rising and falling violently. But didn't they say they would change in the future and never be bandits again? They didn't want to run away before because they were afraid we would chase them. But it suddenly rained heavily yesterday, and they seemed to have changed their minds, including the three heads and the main managers. They all ran away overnight. Their sudden decision surprised even her. Joe's face turned blue and purple, looking like a pallet had been overturned. Time passed day by day. Without the heads, The remaining bandits dared not cause trouble at all, and dared not go east or west. Yunxi found that her experience bar was stuck again, so she told Zhou that she was leaving here. Zhou immediately said that she would go with her. Before leaving, she set up some formations that could understand the 5 elements and 8 trigrams nearby. Even if the heads of the bandits came back, they would have no way to continue to make a living by robbing. In the future, when they were lurking nearby, even if a caravan passed by, they would not be able to see each other. This road became the safest road nearby, and the caravans liked to go here. Of course, this is a story for later. Along the way, Zhou jumped and hopped, picking flowers from time to time, and looking at fruits from time to time. But her energy was consumed quickly, and by the afternoon, she was exhausted. Sister Lu, which direction are we going? She held on to the big tree next to her, put her hands on her waist and asked with a heavy breath. Yunxi has been moving at a constant speed all the way. At this time, her physical strength is not consumed much, but she is actually a little confused. I don't know which direction to go. Anyway, if you keep going in one direction, you can always get out of this mountain. At the beginning in Fengaiyu Tower, she still paid attention to the direction, but later, she was constantly sold by people, and she was too lazy to recognize the road and was confused. When Zhou heard this unreliable words, she was shocked and felt very incredible. Sister Lu, are you kidding me? Damn it. So Sister Lu doesn't know the way. I heard that many people who get lost in the mountains are never found again. It's hard to find lost people in the mountains even in modern times, let alone in ancient times. There's not even anyone to rescue them. Chapter 178, The County Magistrate's Son. Yunxi and Zhou quickened their pace and walked for a long time before finally reaching the top of the mountain. After climbing over the top of the mountain and looking down from the other side, they could see a small town. Sister Lu, I saw the town. Zhou jumped with excitement and pointed to the sea outside the town below. There is a sea outside the town. Yunxi also smiled. When she set out, she wanted to leave the flower continent and visit other continents. She was originally worried that she would go to the center of the flower continent. Now it seems that her luck is still good. Come and try it. Kelp soup. Warm kelp soup. Everyone who just came back from the sea came to see it. Shrimp cakes, fragrant and crispy shrimp cakes, one bite, full of shrimp meat. Zhou smelled the fragrance around and swallowed his saliva. Yunxi looked around, bought a circle of things, and also let Zhou taste them. After tasting them, the two had some ideas in their minds. Sister Lu, I plan to find a job here. What are your plans? I plan to do some small business. In the list she got from the treasure bag, there are many things to do during the training, and there are many things to do. It just so happens that this town is close to the sea, and there is no shortage of seafood, but there are not many other things. She has a large amount of supplies in her space, so she can do business. After the two discussed, they said goodbye. Yunxi did not buy a store, but directly set up a stall on the roadside and sold tofu. This tofu was made when she was brushing her cooking skills before. The portion is sufficient. Even if there are customers from morning to night, it is enough for her to sell for 1 or 2 years. Moreover, they are all purple products, which can beautify and nourish the skin. Girl, how much do you sell this tofu? The lady who was selling fish at the stall next to her swallowed her saliva and came over with a smile. This tofu is 2 copper coins a plate. Would you like some? Yunxi smiled slightly. She flipped through the space and soon found the tofu she had fried before, thinking of giving it to people to taste. Who knew that before she took it out, she saw someone rushing out from the corner of the street. He looked extremely frightened, and opened his mouth wide as if he wanted to shout something, but in the end he didn't shout anything. He just waved his hands vigorously, like a gust of wind, running back and forth on this street. Yunxi? This person was originally standing at the intersection of the street, as if he was patrolling, but now, for some reason, he seemed to have gone crazy. She hesitated, and was considering whether to help stop him, when the lady who was setting up a stall next to her suddenly changed her face and hurriedly pulled her. Girl, pack up your things. The son of the county magistrate is coming. The lady packed up her things in almost 3 or 2 seconds, then carried the shoulder pole and hurried away. Yunxi was stunned for a moment, turned her head and looked around. The vendors around also woke up quickly or slowly, and hurriedly packed up their things, and ran away in a hurry like the lady just now. In less than a minute, the whole street was empty, leaving only Lu Yunxi standing there, with a tofu stall in front of her. A gust of cold wind blew, sweeping away the fallen leaves, and crows flew over her head. Lu Yunxi. What the hell is the son of the county magistrate? Is it necessary for everyone to run so fast when he comes? She was confused for a while before she followed and packed up her things. When the son of the county magistrate came, not only did the vendors leave, but the customers also left. There was no point for her to stay here. However, she was just one step slower and she couldn't leave. Stop! A stern shout came from the intersection. Several officers with long spears ran over and surrounded her. Lu Yunxi looked at the officers who surrounded her with a settled expression. She understood a little now. These people are probably similar to urban management, right? Thinking of what she had inquired about, the uncle swore to her that there was no need to pay for setting up a stall here. She twitched her eyes. Sirs, I'm just running a small business. I didn't know that I still have to pay for setting up a stall here. She smiled embarrassedly, as if she didn't see the long spear on her neck. If I pay it back, how much do I have to pay? The expressions of the officers surrounding her were a little strange. They looked at each other. One of the officers pressed down his halberd. Be honest. Who told you this? You don't have to pay for setting up a stall here. Feeling the coldness on his neck, Lu Yunxi smiled faintly. Then may I ask the officers, what did I do wrong that you need to surround me? HMPH. Don't you understand what you did wrong? A cold snort came from afar. Lu Yunxi turned his head to look. Suddenly, a group of people appeared at the intersection in the distance. Among them, 6 majestic officers walked in front to lead the way, 8 people in the middle carried a sedan chair, and 6 more officers followed behind. This sedan chair is different from the wedding sedan chair. It is not surrounded on all sides, but open. A man with a greasy face sat on the sedan chair, holding a big chicken leg in his right hand, and taking a bite from time to time. The person who spoke was the man sitting on the sedan chair. This young master is going to patrol the county town, and you low-class people dare to stand here and block the way. He waved the chicken leg in his hand with a contemptuous expression. The sedan came closer and closer. When it came to the tofu stall, it slowly stopped. The son of the county magistrate's family shook his flesh, walked down slowly, and stood in front of her. He looked contemptuous, until he walked in front of Lu Yunxi, then suddenly widened his eyes, forced a smile, and the flesh on his face trembled instantly. It turns out to be a little beauty. He laughed, and squeezed at her with ambiguous eyes. I was wondering why the little beauty stayed here. It turns out that she was waiting for me on purpose. The veins on Lu Yunxi's forehead jumped. She really wanted to know, these gangster-like characters, do they really exist in the world, or are they just set up by the game company? There are too many, too frequent, right? She felt that she encountered more gangsters here than in her previous life. Take her away, let the lady settle her down. The son of the county magistrate's family took 2 more bites of chicken thigh meat and waved to the officials next to him. The officials carried Lu Yunxi all the way back to the county magistrate's mansion. It was not until she was sent to a small room that she finally came to her senses. Woo woo, a low cry sounded in the dark room. Lu Yunxi frowned and turned her head to look around, trying to find a place with light. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a faint hit suddenly appeared behind her. Sister Lu. Lu Yunxi's hair stood up instantly, and she threw a punch while turning her head. Ouch! A girl fell to the ground with a scream. She looked closely. Isn't this Zhou? Looking at the person on the ground covering her eyes and groaning, Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes, and was glad that she didn't use a lot of strength just now. Otherwise, what she saw now might be Zhou's body. Why are you here? She took a deep breath, suppressed the helplessness in her heart, stepped forward to look into Zhou's eyes, and used a blood recovery technique. I was arrested and brought here. I originally wanted to find a job in the government office, but I was sent here. Zhou pressed her eyes and suddenly felt no pain. She spread her hands and said speechlessly, I heard that the girls arrested here are all concubines of the county magistrate's son. Zhou was arrested a few days earlier than her, so she knew a little about the situation here. Although they are all concubines of the county magistrate's son, the county magistrate's family has not yet split up. Logically, they should live in the county magistrate's family, not in such a dark house. But there are too many of them. The county magistrate's house is already the largest and best house in the entire county, but it is very difficult to accommodate the county magistrate's wives and concubines, not to mention so many daughters. Fortunately, the county magistrate's son is the only son of the county magistrate. If the county magistrate has more sons, who knows what the county magistrate's family will become. Even so, only the county magistrate's wife and his favorite 10 concubines could live in the county magistrate's house. All other concubines were thrown into this suburban house. Sorry, I thought it was a bad guy just now. I hope I didn't hurt you. After listening to Zhou Yu's story, Lu Yunxi suddenly remembered that he forgot to apologize just now. Chapter 179, Stuffed into the House. Zhou Yu shook her head indifferently and pointed at the girls huddled together behind her. This room is too dark, sometimes I can't tell whether it is day or night. When I first came in, I almost beat someone up. Haha, you beat me up before. Now you get beaten up too. A girl seemed to be familiar with her and couldn't help but tease her. Lu Yunxi then noticed the large group of girls behind her. Seeing them playing and fighting, she couldn't help but smile. At this moment, footsteps suddenly came from outside. The girls who were talking suddenly quieted down and turned their heads to look in one direction. I saw a door creak open and a beam of light came in from outside. Who are the new people today? Come out. It's your turn to serve. A woman stood at the door and shouted in a rough voice. The girls, like quails, were all startled, looked at each other, and glanced at Lu Yunxi strangely. Then, a girl immediately went up to say a lot of nice things, wanting to ask about the situation, and, there are so many of us who have not served the young master, why are you letting girls who have not been taught to serve? The old woman was just speaking casually at first, but when she heard this, she was immediately shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Then you who have learned the rules before, go and serve. The old woman randomly pointed at a few people. Hurry up, the young master is waiting. The girls who were pointed out didn't care about anything, and immediately straightened their clothes and hair and followed out. Lu Yunxi looked at this scene with a faint expression. There were many girls who were captured in this room, huddled in the corner and shivered. After seeing the old woman leave, they breathed a sigh of relief, but there were also many girls who were very excited, and even eager to serve the young master. The few people who were just pointed out all wanted to serve that ghost young master. If she went up to stop it now, it would not be saving people, but ruining other people's good things. Seeing that Lu Yunxi had nothing to do, she wanted to find a clean place to sit down, but Zhou Yu suddenly pulled her out. It's time to train. After a while, we can have dinner. Lu Yunxi was pulled out by her with a confused face and trained with several maids. As concubines, you must be good to the master, so you must keep the master's preferences in mind. A maid stood on top, walking back and forth with her hands behind her back, with a stern face and eyes like a knife sweeping through them. If you make the master unhappy, don't blame us for beating you to death. Lu Yunxi listened to these brainwashing words speechlessly, and her eyes swept around the people around. Surprisingly, the girls around seemed to have no intention of listening to her at all. There was a thought in their eyes, but they all smiled and agreed. The maid said a lot of nonsense, and chattered for a long time. When Lu Yunxi heard the latter, she suddenly felt something was wrong. According to the maids, the young man who served the county magistrate had to pay attention to the temperature when serving tea, and even had to be careful to feed him meals, and everything had to be done with care. But, those girls didn't even take a bath just now, and some of them had some mud on their bodies. How could these maids let these people serve that young man? If you don't understand, just ask. After the long sermon, Lu Yunxi lowered her voice and asked Zhou Yu beside her. Zhou Yu didn't take it seriously and didn't care. What's the big deal? We have to boil water to take a bath here. It must be more convenient to take a bath in the county magistrate's mansion, right? Lu Yunxi didn't think so. She suspected that this so-called concubine was not actually a concubine, but was sent to do something else. Is it possible that there is no need to boil water to take a bath in the county magistrate's mansion? Although Lu Yunxi felt something was wrong, she realized it too late. It was difficult to find anyone to go out and see what was going on, so she simply patiently had dinner with Zhou Yu. Don't be fooled by these old ladies whining. Sometimes they even ask how to mix fat and lean meat, and sometimes they ask how to perform a proper ceremony when meeting the county magistrate. They are full of nonsense. But when it's time to finish the meal, you can see the problem. We're going to eat this tonight. Looking at the food on the bowl, Lu Yunxi put down her chopsticks heavily. It's actually a whiteboard quality thing, not even green quality. Damn it. She really can't figure it out now. There are actually people who want to be this damn concubine. Just like this. A concubine who can only drink kelp soup for dinner. Haha. Lu Yunxi sneered. Seeing this, Zhou pulled her sleeve and said, Sister Lu, drink it quickly. This kelp soup also has some chopped fish meat and octopus tentacles. It tastes good. Lu Yunxi picked up the spoon and scooped it. Looking at the only piece of octopus tentacles in the bowl, which was smaller than soybeans, her expression was a little distorted. This thing is much worse than the cafeteria of her previous company. There was not even rice, noodles or pancakes, just soup to fill the stomach. In order not to waste food, Lu Yunxi pinched her nose and swallowed the soup with a strong fishy smell, almost no saltiness, and occasionally sand. Soon, it was time to go to bed. The maids drove all the girls back to the house like ducks. When it was time to rest, they were stuffed into several rooms, stuffed to the brim. It was really right to say that they were stuffed, like squeezing into a bus. The room was stuffed with almost no gaps. The maid slammed the door outside. Lu Yunxi was caught in the crowd and felt a little confused. Why, didn't you say that we should rest? How can we rest if we are squeezed here like this? She looked at Zhou, who was not surprised, and was a little confused. Sister Lu, this is for us to rest. Zhou was also helpless. She was a little angry a few days ago, but she got used to it after seeing it too much these days. Because it costs a lot of money to buy beds for so many of us, in order to save money, the county magistrate's wife came up with this idea. Let us squeeze into one room, everyone stands, even if someone falls asleep, there are people next to them to block, so they can sleep standing all the time, so as not to catch a cold sleeping on the ground. Zhou was silent for a while, and said what the old women said before. Lu Yunxi rolled her eyes speechlessly. I don't know how good it is to them. Are you still worried that they will catch a cold sleeping on the ground? Why not get them a bed? What's the big deal about sleeping standing? To put it another way, if they can't afford so many women, then let them leave. Why keep so many girls here? One night passed. Lu Yunxi followed the people in this room to start a new day of training. They were almost training during the day, listening to the admonitions of the people above. She had nothing to do, so she simply started to count the number of people. I didn't know it until I counted it, and I was shocked. These are said to be the concubines of the county magistrate's son, and there are actually more than 500 people. Fortunately, it was in a farm in the suburbs, otherwise it really couldn't accommodate so many people. One room can't hold so many people, so she didn't notice it last night. She waited patiently for a day, and soon, it was dusk. The familiar woman opened the door again and asked people to go out, saying that she was going to serve the county magistrate's son. Lu Yunxi was very interested in where these so-called concubines ended up, and she was selected smoothly because she secretly made some efforts. Zhou was shocked when she saw this, and hurriedly grabbed her. Lu Yunxi shook her head and secretly comforted her. I'm fine, don't worry. However, Zhou was still very worried. She had been comforting herself these days, but she was still very clear that the situation was not good. At this moment, the most trusted Sister Lu was leaving, and she held on tightly, refusing to let go. The woman who called the people had no choice but to let Zhou go up with her. The girls who were called saw several carriages not far away from the farm. Several girls were rushed up together like little chickens. As soon as they got on the carriage and hadn't even sat down, the carriage set off in a hurry. Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes, grabbed Zhou who was almost flying out, and took her to sit in the carriage. Thank you, Sister Lu. Zhou patted her chest, with some residual fear in her eyes, subconsciously leaned next to her. Chapter 180 Familiar Pattern. Lu Yunxi smiled and said nothing. She just watched the carriage running fast on the stone road with a puzzled look in her eyes. She was confused last night and didn't pay attention at all. It turned out that the woman picked 4 or 5 girls from each room. In this way, the girls who were actually sent to serve the county magistrate's son actually added up to 20 to 30. This was just one night. She felt more and more that something was wrong. However, the girls all sat quietly in the carriage, very nervous, and no one spoke. She was among a few people, and simply kept silent, patiently waiting for what happened next. However, the carriage actually entered the county magistrate's mansion. Lu Yunxi pursed her lips, a little incredible. Did she make a mistake? Could it be that the son of the county magistrate's family just wanted to do some group sports? Just when she was suspicious, the carriage stopped, and the 20 or so girls were pushed into a room together. You little rascals, just wait here, the mean-looking woman ordered coldly. then closed the door and left, leaving only a group of girls standing in the room. It was dark, but the room was still dark, which was really mysterious. Some of the girls next to them were panic-stricken, some were excited, and some were at a loss. Yunxi turned her head to look at the empty room and fell into deep thought. Joyu couldn't see the road, and accidentally tripped to the ground, and screamed in shock. "Are you okay?" Yunxi tightened her grip and quickly helped her up, but when she lowered her head, she accidentally saw the floor in the middle of the room. There were complex and familiar patterns engraved on it. Has she seen it somewhere before? "I'm fine." Joyu noticed that she suddenly stopped, and was a little puzzled, so she subconsciously hugged her arm. "Sister Lu, where are we? It's pitch black, and I can't see anything." Joyu's voice was like pressing a switch, and the other girls who didn't dare to speak at first also spoke up. "Didn't you tell us to serve the young master well? Why did you send us here, young master? Young master, are you playing hide and seek with me? Where are you? It's so dark. I'm so scared. Why don't you turn on the lights?" The crying, knocking on the door, and low curses intertwined together, and the 20 or so girls were instantly in chaos. Yunxi was a little helpless when his thoughts were interrupted. When he was about to speak, he saw that the door was suddenly opened again. Bright lights shone in from outside the door. The county magistrate's son, who had only met once before, walked in slowly. He put his hands behind his back, and his flesh was shaking constantly because of walking, like a mountain. The girls who were crying and making a fuss quieted down and looked at him motionlessly. "Are these the ones tonight?" The county magistrate's son's face was completely devoid of the lustful look he had during the day, and his eyes were filled with deep indifference as he looked at them. Yunxi raised his eyebrows. It seems that these girls were not sent here to be concubines. "Yes, that's all the people today." "Sir, do you think we should start now?" The man holding the lantern for the county magistrate nodded and replied. "Well, let's start." The county magistrate waved his hand. Several strong men behind him immediately came up and surrounded the pale-faced girls. At this point, they were not stupid. Who could not see that there was a problem? "No. Don't come over." "Sir, master. I will serve you well, sir. What do you want us to do? Don't be like this. I'm scared." Woo woo. The crying of dozens of girls gave the county magistrate a headache. "Stop arguing." "What are you arguing about?" he yelled, and when he saw that they all stopped crying, his eyes flashed and his voice softened a little. "This young master has found a place where treasures are hidden. I just need you to help me explore the way. I'm not going to kill you." "Why are you crying?" However, none of the girls present believed his nonsense and trembled even more. "Do you see the circle in the middle of the room? As long as you stand in it, you can take away the treasures you get later." The county magistrate's son tempted them, and seemed to hope that they would quickly stand in the circular pattern in the middle. At first, he didn't say so, and the girls were still retreating. But as soon as he said this, no one dared to retreat, and could only look at the approaching thugs, with tears in their eyes. "Sister Lu," Joyu's voice was very low, but the action of pulling her sleeve became more and more tense. Yunxi was still frowning and thinking. It was almost there. She seemed to remember the circular pattern. The girls had retreated to the edge of the circular pattern. Fear made them cry. "Don't come over. Please let me go. I don't want to be a concubine anymore." Amid the pleas for mercy, Yunxi and Joyu stood out. The county magistrate's son narrowed his eyes and was about to walk towards them, but a girl snorted coldly. She shouted at the crying girl beside her, "Stop crying. Are you still so naive? I think the purpose of bringing us here is not to serve him at all, but to go to that treasure place. That place must be very dangerous, right? That's why you threw us out to explore the way. Otherwise, how could you be so generous?" The girl sneered and looked at the county magistrate coldly. She took a deep breath and said to the girl beside her, "It's useless to beg. Everyone, be tough. Even if you want to die, don't be so humble." After saying that, she snorted coldly, and the next second when the county magistrate's face twisted, she jumped into the circular pattern without hesitation. In the circle, the complex pattern lit up little by little, looking gorgeous and with a hint of strangeness. The girls around first shouted no, and then stared at this scene with wide eyes. At the moment when the complex pattern was completely lit up, the girl who walked into the pattern also disappeared completely. This is, Joyu subconsciously covered her mouth. Could it be that I traveled through not to ancient times, but to fantasy world? Yunxi ignored this, but her eyes lit up. She finally knew what this was. Before she could finish her words, the girl next to her suddenly screamed. It turned out to be the son of the county magistrate. His whole face turned red with anger. He brought a few thugs with him and pushed them fiercely with fierce eyes. The girls couldn't resist the strength of these people. They were about to fall into the circular pattern, and their faces became more and more frightened. Yunxi's eyes lit up, and she said something inadvertently in Joyu's ear, and then pretended to be scared and kept backing away. You damn guys! Don't touch me. I'll jump by myself. When she saw that the son of the county magistrate was about to touch her, her face became extremely cold. After saying that, she also jumped into the center of the pattern without hesitation. The pattern lit up again, and Yunxi's figure disappeared completely. The rest of the girls were trembling with fear and became more and more terrified. But with Yunxi and the girl taking the lead, the girl's eyes flashed with hesitation. Joyu mixed in the crowd, lowered her eyes and pondered. Sister Lu just said that this is a one-way teleportation array? In other words, the place you teleport to may be dangerous or safe. It's just that the county magistrate's son only thought it was a place leading to some treasure, but he didn't dare to go in. Thinking of this, Joyu gritted her teeth and jumped in. It's better to follow Sister Lu than to stay here. After a dizzy spell, Joyu felt that she had landed on the ground. She looked around in a daze, a little terrified. Originally, where she was, even if there was a forest, the trees were full of flowers and fruits, which looked very beautiful, instead of like a tropical rainforest, which was humid and full of trees, insects and ants. Sister Lu, where's this? Joyu shrank her neck and lowered her voice with some uneasiness. Yunxi looked at the familiar scenery, but her heart moved slightly. Could this be the forest continent? Before them, the girl who entered first had found some wild fruits and shared them with him. Yunxi was sure it was edible, so she wiped it and took a bite. So sour. Chapter 181 Tofu Shop. Seeing Yunxi's face wrinkled up instantly because of the sourness, Joyu next to him didn't dare to eat it immediately, but the other girl frowned and ate it while resisting the sourness. There's only this kind of fruit around, and you can't find any other fruit. She turned her head and looked at Joyu and advised, if you don't want to be hungry, you should eat it. Joyu hesitated, took a bite slowly, and instantly felt her teeth were sour. When she covered her cheeks, the girl who came first had already eaten several fruits. After a while, Joyu's teeth were better, and she was about to take another bite, but she saw that the girl suddenly covered her stomach. Her stomach growled, and the sound was particularly clear. The girl laughed dryly. It seems that this sour fruit can't fill my stomach. After that, her face suddenly changed, and she covered her stomach and hurriedly ran into the bushes. Seeing the girl going to the toilet frantically, Yunxi and Joyu silently put down the fruit and didn't dare to eat any more. Fortunately, the girl was full and stopped eating. The diarrhea was not serious. Yunxi found some herbs for her, so she recovered soon. At this time, the other girls who couldn't beat the thugs also came over one after another. At first, they were a little panicked, but when they saw that everyone was fine, they gradually calmed down. Yunxi asked everyone if they wanted to go with her. These girls were actually only 15 or 16 years old, half-grown children. When they heard her words, they responded one after another. They randomly chose a direction and set off. Along the way, they occasionally encountered squirrels, hares, and pheasants. There were often fruits on the trees passing by, and fish by the stream, so no one was hungry. Looking at this familiar scene, Yunxi became more and more certain that she had returned to the forest continent. What's more interesting is that she originally thought that she had to spend some effort to teach them, otherwise these girls might not be able to survive. Who knew that these girls were like crouching tigers and hidden dragons? Except when they encountered tigers and wolves, Yunxi needed to take action. At other times, she didn't have to do anything. Because she was mainly responsible for everyone's security, they also took care of other trivial matters. Girl, how about that boiled fish we made today? The humidity was so high a few days ago that some people got eczema. It's good to eat something spicy now. I picked up a lot of herbs, which can be added to today's dishes to remove the moisture. The girls started to act one after another. Yunxi's butt was not even warm yet, and she could start eating. Everyone was eating happily. Who knew that when they were halfway through the meal, the mountains next to them suddenly shook? Joyu was shocked. Is it an earthquake? Everyone, hold your head and squat. Yunxi's body shook unconsciously. She quickly released dozens of protective shields to cover the girls. The next moment, they were completely submerged by the mud rushing down from the mountain. "Girl, are you awake?" The girls around her immediately surrounded her, supporting her, serving her tea, and handing her food to her mouth. Yunxi twitched her eyes, refused everyone's help, and sat up straight. Almost a moment she moved, she noticed the humid air in the room. She frowned uncomfortably. "Where is this, girl? We are lucky and were rescued. I heard that this is Luzhao." "Luzhao?" Yunxi raised her eyebrows. She didn't know whether there was Luzhao in the flower continent, but there was indeed a Luzhao in the forest continent. It was said that there were many small ponds here, and many egrets like to stay here, so it was named Luzhao. Thinking of this, she couldn't wait to jump off the bed and open the door. Outside were small ponds, and several egrets lowered their heads, seemingly pecking at small fish in the water. Yunxi smiled immediately. She was back in the forest continent. The girls found a way to make some gifts, thanked the people who saved them, and then hurried into the city. Luzhao is a big city with many job opportunities, a clean government, and very friendly people. These girls all have their own skills and soon found their own place to settle down. Yunxi also thought about doing business again. However, before she could find which street was more suitable, these girls came. "Miss Lu, I heard that you want to do business. I just got a store here. It's useless, so I'll give it to you. Your store is just a small store, but mine is a 2-story building. Girl, you can use mine to do business. I don't have a store, but I know a lot of people. Girl, no matter what business you want to do, I can help you find the goods, and I still use the lowest price. Girl, thanks to you for saving me some time ago, otherwise I would have been torn to pieces by wolves. How could I find such a good job? Don't be polite, just accept this little thing." A group of people started to chatter. Yunxi was stunned. Zhou Yu was even more embarrassed. She embarrassed the seniors who traveled through time. Others either gave money or land, but she could only buy some snacks for Sister Lu. After being pestered for a few days, Yunxi still couldn't refuse and accepted all these gifts. Luzhao, East Street. This street is full of shops, and they all do business for nobles, such as rouge, powder, pearls, jade and other things. But a few days ago, a tofu shop opened here. Everyone either sells gold and silver jewelry or antiques and calligraphy and paintings. Only this tofu shop, sandwiched in the middle, looks very strange. Yunxi was sitting in this tofu shop at this time, shaking a fan. She was a little bored. In fact, this shop was given to her by one of the girls. She was going to rent it out, but who knew that she had waited for a few days and still didn't wait for someone to rent it. Another shop given by another girl was in the downtown area, but there were mostly groceries sold there, close to the vegetable market, and a little messy. Yunxi didn't expect that someone would soon be interested in renting the shop in the downtown area, but this shop, which was decorated magnificently, was always unpopular. She had to rent out the shop near the vegetable market and keep this one for her own experience. But on this street, the tofu business has never been successful. Even though she hired a lion dance team, had people promote it, and even organized a lot of lucky draws, no one was interested. After all this time, she didn't make a penny, but spent a lot of money on other things. Yunxi was completely flat. If it weren't for the fact that as long as she opened this tofu shop, even if there were no customers, the experience bar would slowly increase, otherwise she would have closed the shop long ago. Time passed day by day. Just when she wanted to give up, someone suddenly wanted to rent the shop, and the price was very fair. Yunxi was too lazy to bargain, so she rented the shop directly, and then went to the vegetable market, set up a stall and continued to sell tofu. However, on the first day of opening the stall, not only were there no customers, but there were more people watching the fun. "Hey, there's actually a girl selling tofu here. Is this the tofu Zishi that everyone talks about? She's really a pretty girl." Many men passing by would gossip about it, but Yunxi didn't take it to heart. But perhaps because she didn't react, someone wanted to touch her face. She frowned, her eyes were extremely gloomy, and she looked at the people around her coldly with an unspeakable murderous intent. She glanced around and found that the people who set up stalls around her had already run away, and the street was empty. She sneered and beat up the person who wanted to take advantage of her. After that, she didn't know how the news spread around, but her tofu business became even quieter. When the passers-by saw her, they were so scared that they turned pale and ran away quickly, as if she was a virus. Yunxi had no choice but to change the place. She realized that selling tofu looked too weak. Sitting there with a small chair, all kinds of gangsters would come out, so she simply changed to selling meat. What she didn't know was that the reason she encountered so many hooligans had nothing to do with selling tofu. It was all because Luzhou is relatively remote, with few job opportunities but a large population. There were many idle people, so they wanted to have fun. In addition to the many small ponds in and around Luzhou City, there were forests about 10 kilometers outside the city wall, with a lot of prey. Yunxi casually went up the mountain to kill a wild boar and brought it back to the vegetable market. Chapter 182 Can it be cured? Almost as soon as Yunxi arrived, a large group of people came to join in the fun. Hey? What are you selling, little girl? They didn't pay any attention to the things on the ground, and their eyes kept lingering on her face. What she didn't know was that this street was full of old men, and it was rare to see old women. As soon as she, a young girl, came out, she was like a meat bun that attracted dogs. She was simply too conspicuous. I'm selling pork. What, do you want it? Yunxi patted the wild boar that was tight and shivering next to her and greeted it enthusiastically. Yes, give me half a pound. The man probably didn't even understand what she said, wiped his saliva and laughed. Yunxi didn't pay any attention to what the man was thinking, raised the corners of his lips, and was secretly happy. Yesterday, everyone was talking for a long time, and no one really wanted to buy anything. Today is finally open. She picked up the machete and sharpened it on the grindstone. The sound of smacking continued to ring, and the machete was sharpened more and more, flashing with cold light. At this time, other people finally noticed her and came over to watch the fun. Among them, there were actually quite a few people who had been beaten by her before. I don't know if there was something wrong with their eyes, but they couldn't recognize her. Good. The knife is sharp enough. The girl is really amazing. Not only can she sharpen knives, but she can also hunt. Haha, hunting. Everyone paused and finally realized something was wrong. Yunxi didn't care what they said at all, as long as the business was open. Her intuition told her that as long as the business was open, her experience points would increase rapidly, instead of increasing by 1 or 2 points every few days. Thinking of this, she was so happy that she wanted to hum a song. With a smile on her face, she picked up the machete and sharpened it to hit the wild boar. There was a sound of stabbing and pulling. The white knife went in and the red knife came out. The wild boar screamed and trembled. Yunxi held the wild boar firmly with one hand to prevent it from breaking free. The wild boar gradually lost its breath and fell to the ground. The people next to it were shocked. The screams of the wild boar echoed for a long time. They finally came to their senses, and their lust disappeared in an instant. Yunxi killed the wild boar and felt a little sorry for the blood flowing down. She looked back at everyone and showed a warm smile. Do you have a basin? Lend me some blood. It would be a pity if it is gone. By the way, which part do you want? She raised the corners of her lips, and a trace of blood stained her cheek. The wind blew her hair, and her snow-white skin made the red clothes look like blood. In this scene, everyone could not see any beauty, but only felt terrified. The 4 words which part kept echoing in their minds. Ghost, I don't know who shouted, and the others finally reacted. A group of people swarmed to the side. Yunxi was stunned, a little confused. Where are you going? Hey. Didn't you say you wanted to buy meat? Seeing that everyone was about to run away, she was a little anxious and reached out to grab the person who said he wanted to buy meat. Unexpectedly, as soon as she moved, the others ran faster. In less than a few seconds, the whole street was empty. A gust of wind blew, sweeping away a few fallen leaves, leaving only a desolate cold. Yunxi twitched her eyes, speechless and angry. She reluctantly put the wild boar away. Failed again. This business is getting more and more difficult. I don't know why the customer suddenly ran away. It's really weird. Frowning, she hurried through the crowd, but accidentally saw a girl squatting under a tree crying. Yunxi glanced at her and didn't care. However, just as she was about to pass by, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Whoa! How could this happen? She paused and was a little surprised. Joyu heard the voice and looked up suddenly. Sister Lu, looking at her red eyes, Yunxi took a breath. Joyu, did someone bully you? Sister Lu, why are you not my real sister? Joyu looked at her steadily and suddenly cried again. Yunxi? How did I travel to a game world? I thought it was just an ordinary ancient world. I am in so much pain. Why is this happening? Once I stop taking the medicine, Won't I be dead for sure? Joyu's tears were falling. Lu Yunxi's heart was suddenly startled. She stared at Joyu's face closely, wondering if Joyu was testing her. Joyu, are you confused? What nonsense are you talking about? What game or not? She approached tentatively. However, Joyu seemed to be immersed in his own world, and he was still mumbling in his mouth. After watching for a while, Lu Yunxi felt cold in her heart. This Joyu might really have a problem. She immediately took Joyu's pulse, but the result made her heart sink. Joyu might have a problem because of too much psychological pressure. Lu Yunxi gritted her teeth, carried the person on her back, and took him to the clinic. Although she herself was good at medicine, and was good at internal medicine, gynecology, and pediatrics, this time she encountered a psychological problem, which was her area of expertise. She had to look for people everywhere, and it took a long time before she finally found a famous doctor. Doctor, how is my friend doing? Lu Yunxi held down Joyu's waving hands and feet, feeling very worried. Not good. The doctor stroked his beard, his eyes showing a trace of solemnity. Your friend suddenly experienced a big change a few months ago, and she felt uneasy. After that, she encountered stimulation again. She repeatedly deceived herself, but it was useless to deceive herself. The longer the time, the more pain she accumulated in her heart. She became depressed and emotionally upset, which is why she became like this. Lu Yunxi looked at Joyu, who was crying and acting crazy at one moment, and his expression was not good. That's right. When Joyu was chased by bandits and accidentally fell into the dungeon, something was wrong with her, but she didn't notice it at that time. Lu Yunxi took a deep breath, spoke with difficulty, and looked at the doctor with some expectation in his eyes. Then can my friend be cured in this condition? It would have been best if she had been sent here a few months ago when she was just stimulated. It's a little late now, but it's not incurable. The doctor touched his beard. It will take a long time, and better medicine will be needed. All of these are fine. Lu Yunxi breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Excuse me, just give her the best medicine. After all, Joyu is also a time traveler, and is considered her fellow villager. It's not easy to go out, so help if you can. The doctor's expression improved a little, but he still looked at her quietly. Even if all these are available, what she needs is the company of a close person. If there is no close person to accompany her, no matter how good the medicine is, it will be useless. The doctor touched his beard. He has seen too many people and knows that this is a very difficult condition to achieve. So he didn't find it strange that the girl in front of him said she couldn't do it. But I have only known this girl for a short time. Lu Yunxi frowned, a little worried. Where can I find her close relatives? Joyu probably came here alone, not with her whole family, so where can she find her family? The doctor seemed not to have thought of this and was stunned. This is actually the case. The doctor touched his beard and was a little moved. She thought that this girl and the patient were family members, but who knew? There are still good people in this world. But on second thought, he became worried again. Without the company of close people, her situation will be much more difficult. I can only say that I will do my best. The doctor sighed and began to treat. Lu Yunxi stood by and watched this scene silently. In the days that followed, Lu Yunxi occasionally came to see Joyu, and occasionally went outside to set up a stall, and his experience points slowly increased bit by bit. As time passed, Joyu's condition got better and better, and gradually returned to normal. Later, he even found a job in the government with his own ability, and his life became better and better. Lu Yunxi felt relieved. Seeing that he had completed all the business experience events on the list, he was ready to move on to the next step. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Village. In the previous experience, Lu Yunxi had discovered a secret. That is, every time she was sold, her experience points increased very quickly. She suspected that being sold was a magical tool for brushing experience. She had been busy with various things before and had no time to experiment. Now she just happened to have time. In order to upgrade herself as soon as possible, she gritted her teeth and found a human tooth in person. Sell me. What did you say? The human tooth stood in front of her with a shocked face, his eyes widened in disbelief. I said, sell me. Lu Yunxi nodded affirmatively, indicating that he had not heard wrong. You, girl, I see that you are dressed and don't look like you can't afford to eat, so why sell yourself? The human tooth shook his head to persuade her. But she had no reaction and still stood there. Of course, she didn't afford to eat. Isn't this just a shortcut to brush the level? Seeing that she was motionless, the human tooth frowned so much that it could kill a mosquito. He turned his head and looked around, and finally sighed helplessly, took out a silver ingot from his pocket and stuffed it into her hand. No matter how difficult things are, they will all pass one day. Take this silver for now. Yunxi looked at the silver in her hand, and then at the tattered clothes of the human tooth bearer. Her eyes trembled slightly, and the corners of her lips moved. Thank you for your kindness. It's not what you think. I have my own reasons for being sold. Thank you for your trouble. The human tooth bearer was a little strange, but when he saw her determined eyes, he just sighed faintly. Well, where do you want to be sold to? Just tell me when the time comes. Yunxi got on the human tooth bearer's carriage and was on the way to be sold. Unlike the human tooth bearers she had met many times before, this time the human tooth bearer was pretty good. Sitting in the carriage, he would not be tied up. The food was the same as the human tooth bearer, although it was all vegetable dumplings. The carriage was rolling. The crying of the little girl next to him kept coming. After listening to the crying for more than an hour, Yunxi finally couldn't help but open her eyes. Besides some women with dumb faces, there was only a little girl of 5 or 6 years old, skinny, with eyes that looked unusually prominent on her thin face. She was lying on a woman, tears kept falling down, sobbing, and her eyes were full of fear. Yunxi was very strange at first, but when her eyes swept over the woman where the little girl was lying, she frowned instantly. In this carriage, no one else was tied up, but the woman next to the child was tied up. Yunxi's eyes flashed, a little puzzled. Along the way, she also had a general understanding of the character of the human trafficker. He was not a cruel person, so why did he tie this person up? Taking advantage of the lunch break, Yunxi asked. Are you talking about the old lady with the child? Reincarnated was stunned for a moment, and it took him a long time to remember who it was. He couldn't help but sigh. This old lady was sold by her family. Yes, her husband went to a faraway place to fight. The swords and knives were blind on the battlefield, and she was killed. The government did send a lot of silver, but unfortunately she only had one girl in her family, and she couldn't support the family. The compensation silver was taken away by other family members. Reincarnated sighed quietly. If it were so, it would be fine, but this old lady seems to be crazy, and the family is even more unwilling to support them, so they sold her. Crazy. Yunxi turned his head and saw the old lady's lifeless eyes. He was speechless for a while. For a moment, the whole air became oppressive. After a long time, Yunxi asked again, where are you going to sell this mother and daughter? You don't know this, right? Let's go a little further and cross a few mountains. There is a mental hospital there. Reincarnated rubbed his hands with some pride. I heard that people with hysteria will be well taken care of after entering. Even people without money can go in without worry. Yunxi's first reaction was, mental hospital, there is such a thing here? This should not be a product of the world of cultivation. Could it be set up by the game company? After hearing what Reincarnated said, her second reaction was, there are actually such good people, building a mental hospital, you can go there even if you don't have money. Is this charity? Reincarnated saw her confusion and explained, you haven't heard of a mental hospital? This is actually a place like a clinic, but it is dedicated to patients with hysteria and insanity. This thing has never been seen in other places. It should be something unique to the oasis. People who live in the mental hospital for free don't have to pay money, but after they recover from their illness, they need to stay in the hospital to work. They have to work for at least 2 or 3 years to offset the money they spent in the mental hospital before they can leave. Yunxi was relieved after hearing this. Good without a purpose is terrible. If they asked her to work to offset the expenses, she would think it was no problem. After talking with Reincarnated, Yunxi also relaxed and climbed onto the carriage again. She was about to close her eyes and take a nap, but suddenly remembered something. She gave the woman a blood recovery spell without hope. However, surprisingly, this time the blood recovery spell actually worked. She used it on Zhou before, and it didn't work. Yunxi pondered for a while and soon found the problem. It turned out that Zhou's previous illness was purely due to depression, but although the old lady was a little sad, it was more because of the trauma to her head, and the stimulation that caused the illness. Her blood recovery technique is very effective for trauma. The old lady's eyes gradually regained clarity. She stared around blankly, gradually regained her memory, and tears slowly fell from her eyes. Miss Liu, are you really going to enter the mental hospital? It's not too late to regret it now. Renyazi looked at the white building not far away and had an ominous feeling. The old lady is now well and doesn't need to go to the mental hospital anymore. Thank you, I will think about it again. She smiled and glanced at the system panel. Renyazi thought Lu Yunxi stopped the car because she wanted to go to the mental hospital, which was of course not the case. Lu Yunxi followed Renyazi and sat in the carriage for so long, but the experience bar on the system panel did not increase at all. She felt that sitting in the carriage like this was not a solution, so she stopped the carriage and got off. It was just a coincidence that it stopped near the mental hospital. She finally understood. It is impossible to upgrade by taking shortcuts like being sold. Sure enough, there are not so many shortcuts in this world. She gave the trafficker a sum of money as food expenses for these days. When the trafficker's carriage left, she looked worried. She had already done many things listed in the brocade bag, but the experience she could gain was limited. Many things were useless if they were repeated. Young lady, why are you here alone? A woman saw her, wiped her hands in surprise, put down the hoe in her hand and walked over. Lu Yunxi looked up and found that she had actually walked to farmland. And, I'm a tourist passing by. May I ask where this is? Huh? Tourist? Then I have to tell you something. Our village is the mental hospital. The aunt raised her head proudly and pointed to the mental hospital half hidden by the trees. The mental hospital is the most powerful place here. It's also because our village is close to it that we can use this name, mental hospital. Yes, there was a village next to our village before. At that time, our two villages almost fought to grab this name, but later their village chief moved away with people, and this name was given to our village. We are also lucky. Speaking of this, the aunt was very excited. It is because of this mental hospital that our village has become lively. Some people even opened an inn for tourists passing by. In the past, our lives were even harder, and many people even had to eat dirt. The aunt seemed to be in high spirits and kept talking. Lu Yunxi listened silently with a smile on his face. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew. A familiar smell wafted over. Lu Yunxi's eyebrows moved slightly, and a light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 184 The Meal Delivery Person. Lu Yunxi's eyebrows moved slightly, and the next second, he fell to the ground. Is it done? A low and hoarse voice suddenly came from a distance. The ant who had been chattering non-stop approached cautiously and put her hand on the nose of Lu Yunxi. She frowned and thought for a long time, and no one knew what she had found out. It should be fine. The person is still alive and breathing. She turned her head to the person behind her and said seriously, "Who wants to see if she is breathing?" After accidentally killing someone with drugs before, we use much less drugs, so we won't kill people. Maybe some of them haven't fainted yet. The man behind him seemed angry, and walked out in person to check Lu Yunxi's breath. Don't wait for her to wake up and run away. I heard that the breathing of a comatose person will become very light and slow. The man frowned for a long time. I don't know if this girl's breathing is very light and slow. Forget it, she has fallen to the ground, and she probably can't hear us talking. Let's go, carry the person away. The man was a little anxious, and immediately squatted down and lifted Lu Yunxi's head. The ant walked to her feet. The two of them worked together. Lu Yunxi suddenly became a U-shape, her head and feet were lifted up, but her waist kept falling down. She was speechless. It seems that these two people are not very familiar with this, otherwise they wouldn't have messed up even moving a person like this. We've made a lot of money this time, so we don't have to work for a long time. Speed up. As the two talked, their eyes lit up with excitement and they walked very fast. Lu Yunxi ran with them and felt the vibrations. In just a few minutes, she was sent to the mental hospital. Where did this come from? You sent this person here, nothing will happen, right? Oh, don't worry. How dare we send this unsafe person here? This girl is a tourist. How can a girl be a tourist? There must be no one to take care of her. Okay, here's your money, go out and shut up. Yes, thank you, sir. Lu Yunxi listened to the conversation around her and her mind moved forest continent, oasis, in the mental hospital. Lu Yunxi was tied up tightly, tied to the bed. When she woke up, she saw the white ceiling, which was very different from the ancient beams. She looked around. This is a very closed room. with only a small window pane near the ceiling, about the size of a brick. A faint white light came in, probably it was still morning. Apart from that, there was only a bed in the room, nothing else. She blinked. The door suddenly opened. A group of people swarmed in. The leader was wearing a white coat and a mask, and behind him seemed to be a large group of subordinates, very much like the director of the department in the previous life. "This is our new patient, number 3, the director pointed to Lu Yunxi lying on the bed. "She is now demented, you must be careful when you approach, and then follow the prescription I gave to treat her, Lu, idiot." Yunxi rolled her eyes speechlessly. "Look, she is rolling her eyes, this is obviously a sign of dementia." The director pointed at her face and became more and more excited. A group of doctors also lit up their eyes, like watching a monkey show in a zoo, surrounding Lu Yunxi, holding pens and brushing, not knowing what to write down. Another doctor opened the book and read out the symptoms one by one. Stupid, indifferent expression. Silent dementia, eyes rolling back. It's really the right symptom. Master is really amazing. The more Lu Yunxi listened, the more speechless she felt. She couldn't help but twitch her lips. What the hell? At this time, the head of the department also noticed her strange expression and became more excited. "Look at her face, is it twitching?" he explained with confidence. "Generally speaking, her limbs are more likely to twitch, but now she only has twitching at the corners of her mouth, which means that there is blood stasis blocking the brain." The group of doctors behind him kept nodding and listening seriously. Lu Yunxi. She used the detection technique on the people in front of her, and soon found that among this group of people, only the head of the department knew a little bit of medical skills, but at most it was at the internship level, which meant that he had just started. The others didn't even know medical skills. She was speechless. What the hell is going on? A group of people who don't know medical skills at all are discussing her condition here. Fortunately, the lady in the carriage was cured by her skills, otherwise she would be sent here and who knows how she would be tortured. Thinking of the praise of Reincarnated for this place before, she couldn't help but twitched her eyes again. At this time, the director of the department seemed to have finished talking a lot of nonsense, and he was satisfied. He didn't pay attention to her expression and walked out with people directly. Lu Yunxi looked at the door outside being closed, and instantly broke free from the rope, ready to take a good look at this mental hospital. However, before she got out of bed, someone came in. Hiss. My God. Why did you come down? Hurry up and go up, it's time for lunch. The man took a tray and gasped. His tone was very anxious. Lu Yunxi didn't say anything, watching the man rush in and bring her a bowl of green medicine and a few throat-piercing cakes. She looked at the medicine and twitched her eyes. A bowl of medicine, unknown efficacy, unknown side effects. She refused expressionlessly. I don't want it, drinking this medicine might kill you. She is almost a grandmaster now, and will soon be able to restore the world to normal, but she doesn't want to take risks at this time. The man frowned, seeming a little unhappy, but still endured it. No, you are a patient, how can you not take medicine? Lu Yunxi's face sank. Looking at the fierce eyes like a beast, the words that the man wanted to threaten and preach were stuck in his throat, and he could no longer speak. He laughed and slowly retreated. Lu Yunxi was too lazy to pay attention. She was hungry at this time, so she took out a few buns from the space. Just after she had eaten, the person who had just delivered the meal broke in with a large group of people. That's her, the man pointed at Lu Yunxi, and the others swarmed up. Some people pressed Lu Yunxi on the bed, and some people held the medicine bowl and forced her to drink it. Lu Yunxi sneered, thinking that she had never been so angry. She turned her hand back and knocked the person opposite her down in 2 or 3 moves. Those people were no match for her at all. They screamed in pain, but Lu Yunxi fought back. She divided the medicine equally and poured it down their throats. Seeing that they were quiet after being poured the medicine, Lu Yunxi snorted coldly and went out to run the map. The mental hospital has only 2 floors. Except for the corridor in the middle, it is almost all rooms. Each room has a similar layout, with a bed and a small window for ventilation. She turned around and suddenly found something wrong. This room should be so small. She narrowed her eyes and knocked on the wall. She knocked all the way down the corridor of the house and soon noticed the change in the sound. Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed and she began to look for a mechanism nearby. Unexpectedly, this mental hospital is hidden quite deep, and there is a dark room in the house. She fumbled for a while, and when she found a clue, the group of people in her room suddenly ran out. She immediately withdrew her hand and walked towards her room. The group of people saw her and breathed a sigh of relief. "Why are you running around looking for?" One of them was about to get angry, but when he looked up and saw Lu Yunxi's cold face, he paused when he thought of how relaxed she was when she beat them. "We are worried about you too. There are many patients here. If you run around everywhere, you may be in danger." The people next to him laughed dryly. Lu Yunxi had a faint expression, just glanced at the negative effects on them, and continued to move forward. It turned out that they had picked up this medicine blindly, and they had just taken it, so it didn't work so quickly. They will know later. Almost the next second after she thought of this, someone in the group changed his face and covered his stomach. "Outhouse! Where is the outhouse?" They yelled and ran madly, pushing and shoving each other, completely ignoring Lu Yunxi. Chapter 185 Dog Egg. Lu Yunxi raised her eyebrows, looked at their eagerness to go to the toilet, shook her head secretly, and returned to the room. She found that the mechanism here looked a bit complicated. Even if she wanted to go down, it would take some time, so she had to prepare first. She stayed in the room, knocked on the next door, and made sure that there was no dark room around. Then she felt relieved and began to think about the mechanism. After tossing around in the house for a day, she was finally ready. However, before she could go out, she waited for another person to deliver food. The person who delivered food was very honest. He knocked on the door gently. After she answered, he just silently sent the tray to her bed and quietly left. "This is today's medicine." Lu Yunxi looked at the tray on the bed and raised her eyebrows. She originally thought she was going to have a big fight with this person, but she didn't expect that this person would actually leave on his own. She thought for a while, found an unused wash basin in the space, poured the medicine in cakes, and put a drop of medicine juice on the corner of her lips, and then opened the door. "Thank you, I have finished the medicine." When the man heard this, the corners of his mouth trembled unconsciously, his eyes were complicated, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he said nothing, just quietly took the tray and left. Lu Yunxi felt a little strange. In the next few days, Lu Yunxi found out a patrol situation nearby before preparing to set off. As for the person who delivered the meal, he became the silent person later. Regarding this, Lu Yunxi checked it out. It seems that the person who delivered the meal spread it privately, saying that she was fierce and evil, so those old-timers didn't dare to come here. They handed the chore of delivering her meals to this new honest man. It was also fortunate that the person who delivered the meal was not in the same group as the doctor, otherwise she might have been found out long ago. Lu Yunxi looked at the time, lay down on the bed and slept for a while, ready to wait for the man to deliver the meal at noon, and then go to the dark room before. Dong dong, a familiar knock on the door came, and the honest man came in silently, and still put the tray on the bed silently. Lu Yunxi looked down, but suddenly narrowed his eyes. She had never noticed it before, but now she suddenly discovered that this honest man actually had calluses on his hands. They were not calluses from holding a hoe, but more like calluses from holding a pen for a long time. This kind of calluses would not exist without holding a pen for more than 10 years. Lu Yunxi's expression became a little subtle. There were gullies all around this mental hospital. Although it belonged to the big city of Oasis, it was actually surrounded by mountains. There were few literate people at all, let alone people who had studied for decades. An honest man? Not necessarily. I just don't know if this person's heart is towards the mental hospital or towards her. Seeing that the man was about to leave the room, Lu Yunxi's fingertips moved slightly. Ah! With a cry of surprise, the man fell to the ground. He rubbed his knees, a little puzzled, and glanced around, but saw a flat floor. Strange. He always felt that he fell because his feet were numb just now. Lu Yunxi watched him get up, and his movements were a little stiff. It seems that this guy has only studied. And even if he practices martial arts, it is only to strengthen his body, and he has definitely not practiced real kung fu to fight. Thinking of this, she did not call anyone, but just asked, "Are you not hurt?" The man shook his head. Seeing that he went to deliver food to others, Lu Yunxi threw away the soup and cakes in a few seconds, waited for a while, and then returned the tray to the person who delivered the food. She sat for a while, and when it was almost time for everyone to take a lunch break, she made sure that there was no one around, and then she walked to the place where she had discovered the mechanism before. She opened the mechanism in a few seconds and sneaked into the dark room. However, as soon as she entered the door, she couldn't help but widen her eyes. According to Lu Yunxi's idea, she originally thought that this would be a place full of various secrets or various treasures, but the light gauze curtains, the red petals on the ground, the bed in the center that took up 2/3 of the entire room, and the bright red bedding on the bed, every place seemed so ambiguous. Lu Yunxi looked at this room, and the more she looked at it, the more familiar it felt. Wasn't the second floor of Fengaiyu Tower decorated similarly to this one? She walked lightly and looked around. However, the whole room was like this, and no gold, silver or treasure could be found. Lu Yunxi was extremely disappointed and was about to leave when she suddenly heard a slight sound from next door. Her heart skipped a beat, and she breathed more lightly and walked over with light steps. It was not until then that she realized that there were several small holes in the dark room, which allowed her to clearly see what was happening next door. She held her breath and put her eyes close to the small hole. There were ordinary wards on both sides of the dark room, and it happened that the 2 wards next to it were uninhabited. At this time, someone came in. She looked closely and found that a figure was rummaging around the room stealthily. Sometimes he turned over the bed, and sometimes he knocked on the floor, as if he was looking for some treasure. However, this back figure looked a little familiar. She frowned and put her eyes closer. The moment the man turned his head, Lu Yunxi was shocked. It turned out to be the man who had brought her food these days. She subconsciously covered her mouth and watched the man walk around the room carefully and then quietly left. Lu Yunxi put the things she had touched back to their original places, and quickly returned to her room while no one was paying attention. When the honest man was rummaging through things, his face was solemn and his eyes were full of disgust. He didn't look like someone from a mental hospital. However, it is also possible that someone was bullying him, so his expression was cold. She still had to try again. In the evening, when the honest man came to deliver food, Lu Yunxi suddenly changed her previous silence and asked, "What's your name?" The honest man opened his mouth, but finally just lowered his head. "My name is Gauden." Lu Yunxi twitched his eyes, ignored the pseudonym, and suddenly asked again, "Why have you been delivering food to me these days? Has someone bullied you?" "It's not bullying, I just like to work," Gauden said with a serious face. "Oh? You like to work?" She smiled meaningfully. "It just so happens that my quilt is dirty and stained with oil. You can take the sheets off and wash them later." Gauden was choked and agreed reluctantly. Lu Yunxi watched Gauden taking apart the quilt. His movements were very stiff. Things that others could finish in a few seconds, he actually struggled for most of the day and still couldn't finish it. Instead, he made himself sweat all over and his hair was messy. If you didn't know, you would have thought he had just run 2,000 meters. Lu Yunxi squinted and watched his movements for a while, and soon he had a guess in her mind. This Gauden probably came from a wealthy family. He didn't have calluses on his hands from other work. Moreover, the outer clothes looked rough, but the inner clothes were made of good material, and most people couldn't recognize them. Although the clothes he wore were a bit old, they were indeed not bad. Could it be that his family fell into poverty? Gauden seemed to notice her gaze, and wiped his sweat uneasily. "What's wrong with me? Why are you always looking at me?" Lu Yunxi retracted her gaze and smiled. "It's okay, I just saw the brand on your waist. This thing is not cheap, right?" Her eyes swept over the brand on Gauden's waist without leaving a trace. Although it looks like a wooden brand, it is very delicately carved and made of top-quality materials. It is not a common product at all. Many jewelry is not as valuable as this thing. Gauden didn't show anything on his face, but his back was instantly wet with sweat. "Big sister, what are you talking about? This is bought on the street, it's not worth much." He laughed dryly and scratched his head. "Big sister?" Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes and didn't continue the topic. Gauden secretly breathed a sigh of relief, quickly took off the sheets and left. Looking at his back that seemed to be running away in a panic, Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed. Although the clothes worn by those doctors are good, they can be bought with money, but Gauden's clothes are not like that. She became more and more certain of her guess. Gauden is probably not from the mental hospital. If she wants to investigate, she will have to run back at mealtime, which is also a very troublesome thing. If she can bribe Gauden. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but curl her lips, and she didn't rush to check other dark rooms, but waited patiently. Chapter 186 Infiltration. Soon, Lu Yunxi waited for this opportunity. On this day, she was strolling outside. The patients here have time to go out for fresh air. There are patients strolling outside in the morning and afternoon. At this time, she mixed in with the patients and would not attract attention. When passing by the small garden downstairs, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Beat him. Beat him to death, son of a bitch. How dare you secretly please the dean? What? Do you want to take my seat? Beat him to death. Those who started it today will get a chicken leg later. Yunxi listened carefully. Among the people who were talking, weren't there the people who brought her food the first time? They were shouting so fiercely. She frowned. Who are they bullying? She turned her body and soon saw the scene in the corner hidden by the shade of the trees. A man squatted on the ground with his head in his arms, and was beaten silently by a group of people. The people next to him became more and more excited as they started to fight, and they kept cursing and their words became more and more unpleasant. Yunxi frowned and her expression became cold. Good fellow. He was so cruel. Her eyes darkened, and she picked up some stones from the ground. She flicked them lightly with her fingertips. Who hit me? The group of people were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out, and they stared around with red faces. The person who was surrounded and beaten raised his head slightly, but could only see a skirt fluttering away. Yunxi looked at the snacks on the tray with a strange expression. What is this? Why is the food different today? Her eyes flashed. This is the snack for doctors, you can eat it without worry. Gauden lowered his head, covering the purple and blue marks on his face. Thank you for saving me today. Yunxi raised his eyebrows, and a light flashed in his eyes. Oh? How come I didn't know that I saved you? Gauden paused. He knew in his heart that when he was beaten today, he almost died. If this person hadn't acted in time, he would really be finished. Although he didn't know why she concealed it, he was still secretly grateful in his heart. My name is Shunhei. If you need anything in the future, just turn left when you go out and find me in the room at the end of the second floor. He described the location of his room in detail. I live there. Yunxi curled her lips slightly. This man is not stupid. But didn't you say your name is Gauden? Why is it Shunhei now? She pulled a corner of her lips. Shunhei choked and felt his cheeks hot. He was about to explain, but when he looked up, he saw her half-smile face, and he couldn't help but feel helpless. This girl really loves to joke. Anyway, that's it. After saying that, he left the snacks with her and took the tray away. Before walking out the door, he heard the person inside say, my last name is Lu. After that day, Yunxi and Shunhei gradually became familiar with each other. Shunhei secretly told her a lot of interesting things, such as a doctor who likes to eat smelly things, people who like to slack off while on duty, and other gossip. Although she has explored many things herself, there is still some information that she has not discovered. Time passed day by day. That day, Yunxi was going out to look for clues while everyone was asleep. When he turned the corner, he accidentally ran into another person. Hey! Shunhei took a breath of cold air, and when his heart was about to jump to his throat, he heard it's me, and he suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Miss Lu. Shunhei was shocked and stared at her in disbelief, his eyes full of suspicion. It's time to sleep now. Why are you here? Yunxi seemed not to see the suspicion in his eyes, and her expression was calm. What's strange about me being here? But you don't sleep in the middle of the night and come out to steal. The two looked at each other and looked at the direction in front of them. In fact, they already knew it in their hearts. The other party, like himself, snipped in here for something. But both parties didn't know much about what the other was going to do. The two didn't mean to ask, and they said goodbye and separated, and each went to find what they needed. Yunxi explored here, one because she was very curious, and the other because she stayed here. Her experience value was also increasing. She turned around and suddenly heard a cry. The cry sounded like a crisis, extremely sharp, and full of fear. Almost in an instant, the door of the staff room was quickly opened, and a large group of people rushed out. Yunxi jumped and hid in the darkness. Shunhei happened to be wandering nearby at this time. After all, he didn't practice martial arts much, so he reacted a little slowly. When he came to his senses, many staff members had already rushed out. Fortunately, it was late at night, and there were not many windows in the room, so it was pitch black. Yunxi paused, and quickly pulled him into an empty room. In the quiet space, there was only the sound of Shunhei's rapid breathing. She let go of her hand, watched Shunhei cover his face, and slowly slid to the ground. Thank you, Miss Lu, you saved my life. After a long while, Shunhei smiled bitterly, and his breathing returned to normal. You're welcome. Lu Yunxi looked at his wet clothes and raised her eyebrows. Even if I don't save you, you can pretend that you came out with them. Why are you so nervous? No, we have a rule that only doctors can come out at night. No one else, whether they are delivering meals or cleaning, is allowed to go out. Shunhei sneered. If you come out at this time, you will be treated as someone with bad intentions. People who sneak in are very careful. Once they are discovered, they will be. I don't know where they are sent by those doctors. Anyway, they will never be found again. At this point, he thanked again with lingering fear. Lu Yunxi chatted with Shunhei and finally knew his purpose. Shunhei is indeed a son of a wealthy family, but he is the child of the original wife. After the second wife came into the family, his identity is a bit embarrassing. The grandparents and father at home prefer the children of the second wife. Shunhei himself usually studies in the academy and doesn't care whether his family cares about him at all, but he has a sister, who is born of the same mother, but has to live under the control of the second wife. At first, he didn't notice the secrets of the inner house at all, until he returned home one day and found that his sister was always hiding in the house crying. Then he realized something was wrong. My sister's clothes are short and old, and the food and tea in the house are cold. After I punished a few servants, her life was finally better. Shunhei's eyes became resentful, as if burning with flames. But this time I went to the academy, and when I came back, she was gone. My family said that she accidentally got lost when she went out to burn incense. Shunhei's tone was so gloomy that it seemed to freeze. Girls from wealthy families go out with at least 7 or 8 people. How could they get lost so easily? Even if there are no guards, there are maids and old women. How could they suddenly disappear? I searched for a long time before I found some information. I heard that my sister was sent to this mental hospital. Shunhei lowered his head, and his face could not be seen clearly. I sent people to take my sister back, but after asking several times, they said that my sister was not here. But my subordinates were left to me by my mother, and they are all very capable. It is unlikely that the information they found would be wrong. I really had no choice but to sneak in. Lu Yunxi was somewhat impressed. A scholar who was weak and powerless, sneaked into such a dangerous place to find someone for his sister. From what she saw, he was often beaten and kicked by the people here. If it weren't for his strong willpower, most people would have collapsed in such an environment. Then have you found any clues? Shunhei shook his head. A hint of bitterness flashed in his eyes. I have been looking for a long time, but I still can't find any clues about my sister. But I found that people who were sent to the mental hospital, including staff, always disappear every once in a while, but because the number of people who disappear is small, few people notice it. At this point, his eyes lit up with hope. I think this matter may be useful news. Lu Yunxi nodded and narrowed his eyes. You are right. It is too strange that living people suddenly disappear, or that people disappear every once in a while. Chapter 187 Mob Family. The two discussed it and felt that they still knew too little, so they decided to continue looking for clues. By the way, Miss Lu, why did you come here? Shunhei was a little surprised. Me? I was knocked unconscious by someone outside and sent in. I felt that this place was weird, so I was a little curious and wanted to explore it, Lu Yunxi said generously. Shunhei was a little surprised at first, but then nodded. Others said that this was not credible, but Miss Lu was indeed a very curious person. It was not impossible that she stayed here to find the truth. Tell me about your sister? I'll go to the patients tomorrow to see her. If I run into her, I can tell her. Lu Yunxi suddenly had an idea. Shunhei's sister was sent to the mental hospital. It is very likely that she was tied up and sent for treatment like her. My sister is shorter than you, has a mole on the back of her hand, is quite timid, and her name is Lan Niang. Shunhei hesitated for a moment, but still told her about her sister's situation, but refused her request to find someone tomorrow. Forget about finding someone among the patients. I have basically searched the entire mental hospital, but I haven't seen my sister. Lu Yunxi nodded, and thought of those things in the dark room, and an idea came to her. Maybe she was locked up in the dark room. I will look for the mechanism when the time comes. After Shunhei got the news about the dark room, he took advantage of his position to find out all the places where mechanisms are likely to appear nearby, and drew a topographic map for her. Lu Yunxi took advantage of everyone sleeping at night and searched one by one according to the locations on the map. Disappointingly, Lu Yunxi searched for a long time but didn't find anyone. There are many dark rooms in the entire mental hospital, but the layout is similar. After searching everywhere, no one was found hidden in them. And I don't know what so many dark rooms are used for. She has been busy at night these days, and she has no energy to wander around outside during the day. She lies in bed and sleeps every day. Yunxi thought she was very low-key, but she didn't know that someone was always paying attention to her movements. Seeing her like this, they hurriedly pulled the doctor over. She didn't know that there was a rule in the mental hospital that as long as a patient suddenly showed a different situation from usual, once it was reported and found to be true, there would be a silver reward. Shunhei had only come in the past few days, and he didn't have a good relationship with the people around him, so naturally he didn't know the news. It wasn't until a large group of white coats surrounded her and the person who reported the news took the silver with excitement that Yunxi suddenly realized. Why is she suddenly sleepy? Is it because the recent medicine is not boiled well? Her face is so pale, and her eyes are rolling more. Should I give her a stronger medicine? The group of people were arguing, as if they were discussing some academic issues seriously. But Yunxi kept rolling her eyes. She was fine, she just stayed up too late recently, so she wanted to sleep during the day. Too lazy to listen to their chatter, Yunxi closed her eyes. Change the prescription, make it heavier. The noises around her were getting quieter and quieter. After the doctor came to check on her, he really changed her medicine. Don't ask her how she knew. Because the previous medicine showed all kinds of unknowns, but this time the medicine turned out to be poison. A bunch of non-toxic medicinal materials were combined together to produce a poisonous medicine. She was also impressed. For a period of time afterwards, the doctor came to check on her almost every day. Fortunately, the dark rooms in the entire mental hospital were checked thoroughly, so the doctor came. Otherwise, it would be really difficult for her to go out under such staring. I'm sorry, I haven't talked to you these days. Shunhei saw from the corner of his eye that there were only two of them in the room, and he was immediately relieved and gave her the food he got. It doesn't matter. That group of people come here every day. How can you talk to me? Yunxi waved her hand indifferently. By the way, have you made any progress these days? Speaking of this topic, Shunhei's face looked a little ugly. He lowered his head, secretly wondering. Not yet. He was very excited when he heard about the secret room, but he didn't expect that there was no one in the secret room. So what was the purpose of building this secret room? Yunxi pondered for a while. I have searched the first and second floors, but I have no clue. I can only start from other people. Are there any places that people in the mental hospital go to together? Or do things together? Shunhei's eyes lit up. Thank you for your suggestion, I will go and see. After a while, Shunhei was busy checking the news, and Yunxi began to rest. Staying up late every day in the past few days has caused great harm to her body, and she has to take good care of her body. As time passed, the doctors lost interest in Yunxi. They also told the person who reported the news that it was normal for her to have this disease, and they actually wanted to take back the silver. The person who reported the news didn't want to lose this job, and angrily returned the previous reward silver, and he was so annoyed. Once this matter spread, the servants in the entire mental hospital knew about it. No one wanted to keep an eye on Yunxi anymore. Shunhei turned a disaster into a blessing. It was much easier for him to go out and look for clues than before. On this day, Yunxi mixed in with the patients who were taking a walk again, but found that today's patients suddenly became a little different. Although this place is called a mental hospital, in her opinion, the doctors are probably the ones who need treatment the most in the entire building, and the others look normal. But today's patients seem to be really wrong. I'm a cockroach, no one can kill me, haha. A man jumped onto the table and laughed wildly with his hands on his hips. Another man looked at the people on the stage and suddenly jumped up, dancing and singing. He hugged the person who said he was a cockroach, and started jumping on the table. The people next to them seemed to understand the performance and cheered. Of course, there were a few who didn't join in the fun, and I don't know what they were doing. Yunxi looked at a person moving like a caterpillar passing by, with a subtle expression. Are you a worm? She guessed. Huh, stupid person. Can't you even tell what I am? The caterpillar suddenly stopped moving and looked up at her. Do you know what a mop is? Mop, Alice, most people don't know. This is a new thing. It was created by people in our village. The caterpillar looked at her proudly. This is a treasure that every household must have. Just wave it gently, and it can take away the dust. I am a mop now, a big treasure. He raised his head, and then looked at her carefully, shaking his head. You are not qualified to be a mop now. If you also want to join our mop family, You have to be like me." As he said, he began to twist on the floor again. As his clothes rubbed, the floor did become very clean, and all the dust was wiped away by his clothes. Yunxi. "Thank you." She didn't want to be a mop. She silently gave a thumbs up. "You are really a good mop." The caterpillar was even more proud, scratching on the floor. Yunxi was about to leave, but was suddenly startled. Wait? The mop family that person mentioned, could it be actually a code? Does it mean that the people who sneaked in secretly should gather together? Her face changed, and she quickly came to the caterpillar. "Wait? I want to join your family." "You want to join our mop family?" The caterpillar was stunned at first, and then laughed happily. "I knew that no one could resist our mop family." He raised his head triumphantly. Yunxi squatted down and asked in a low voice, "Can you take me into the family?" "Who else is in the family? Where do you usually talk?" The caterpillar finally stood up from the ground. He showed a mysterious smile. "I'll take you there right away." Yunxi's eyes swept over the messy dust stains on his clothes and twitched. Soon, she ignored this point and followed the caterpillar excitedly. She was going to discover a big secret. She could sneak in. Shunhei could sneak in. Why couldn't anyone else sneak in here? I just don't know why other people sneaked in here. Chapter 188 Noise. Yunxi followed the caterpillar, avoided the crowd, and came to a hidden corner. "Here is the secret base of our mop family." Yunxi immediately gained confidence in the mop family. She had been here for so long, but she had not noticed such a hidden place. She could see if anyone was eavesdropping around, but ordinary people would not notice it, so it was very safe. It seems that there are many smart people in the mop family. Standing in the corner, Yunxi waited patiently. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 20 minutes passed. Yunxi's patience was gradually exhausted. Mayo? No, what should I call you?" She took a deep breath. "Where are our mop family members? Why didn't anyone come?" If she kept waiting like this, the time for the exercise would be over. By then, the patient would be driven back to the room. If she was still wandering outside at that time, it would be too obvious. What's the difference between this and saying to someone in person, "I have a problem, come and catch me"? "Just call me Big Mop." Mop lowered his head embarrassedly, his face slightly flushed. "Everyone from our mop family has already arrived." Yunxi frowned. "But there are only 2 of us here." "Wait." Her expression suddenly changed. Her sharp eyes stared at the people around her, pointed at the other person, and then pointed at herself. "You mean, there are only you and me in the mop family?" Big Mop nodded. She took a deep breath, resisted the urge to beat him up, and forced a smile. "Are you kidding? What kind of family is it with only the 2 of us?" I couldn't believe it. She was fooled. "Now you have joined our family, haven't you? There will be more and more of us in the future." Big Mop seemed a little scared, and shrank his neck back. "Well, since you have joined the family, why don't you change your name in the future?" Yunxi looked at him silently, with a weird look in his eyes. Big Mop didn't notice her expression at all, and said to himself, "Well, just call me Golden Mop." After she finished speaking, he saw that she had a wooden face. He scratched his head. "How about calling it a Silver Mop? A Copper Mop? Haha, thank you for your kindness." She thanked him with a fake smile. When she was about to leave, she suddenly thought of something, gritted her teeth, and used the detection technique on him. She didn't believe it. This guy has a clear mind and speaks clearly. He must be pretending. Confusion. This person is in a state of confusion, unconsciousness, and cognitive impairment. Please send him to the hospital for treatment as soon as possible. Yunxi. So he is actually a real patient. She held her forehead helplessly and walked weakly to her room. Mental hospital, 1st floor. The staff were eating and were very happy. People who usually like to quarrel are not quarreling at this moment, and their heads are almost buried in the bowl. Today we actually have meat to eat. This big fat piece of meat is so fragrant and greasy. This is the first time I've eaten meat cooked like this. I used to think that stewed meat with beans was the most delicious dish in the world, but I didn't expect it to be even more delicious when it's dry cooked. How can it be dry cooked? I saw the chef said that we need to add sugar and a lot of spices to cook it. How can the meat we dry cook at home be so fragrant? A group of people chattered. Shunhei looked at this rare piece of fat meat, swallowed his saliva, and looked away. Miss Lu had helped him several times before, and he didn't have anything good to give her. Why not give this to Miss Lu? After all, she hasn't eaten meat for several days. Thinking of this, He secretly took a few pieces of meat and put them into the oil paper bag while no one was paying attention. However, he noticed people approaching not far away after he put a few pieces. He lowered his eyes and quickly sealed the oil paper bag and hid it while they didn't notice. Almost the next second after he hid it, the table was slammed. "Hey? Eating meat? Is it delicious?" Someone suddenly put his hand on his neck, as if they were very intimate. "Sir." Shunhei's eyes flashed with a gleam, and he looked honest, nodding and bowing. "It tastes very good. Do you want to eat it?" As he said that, he carefully pushed the tray out and pushed it in front of several people. The few people who were about to beat him up laughed and looked at each other. "Not bad. You are quite good." The arm pressing on his neck loosened. Several people patted his shoulders and took away all the meat in his tray with a smile. Shunhei lowered his head with a respectful look. After the group of people left, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. When Miss Lu told him this method, he didn't quite believe it. Unexpectedly, she was right. The group of people really didn't beat him. He quickly finished his meal and took the opportunity to deliver the meal to Lu Yunxi's room. "Miss Lu, there's meat in our lunch today." Shunhei carefully took out the oil paper bag that he had hidden. "Fortunately it's still hot, try it." After saying that, he seemed a little embarrassed. "You have helped me so much these days, I really have nothing to thank you for. This meat is not worth anything. I will find a way to find you something better in the future." Lu Yunxi smiled and opened the oil paper bag. When she was about to eat it, she suddenly smelled a strange smell. As a skilled chef, she has cooked countless times by herself, and has eaten countless dark dishes made by her apprentices. So she knew as soon as she smelled it that there was something wrong with this meat. Lu Yunxi quickly used the detection technique. "Meat with drugs, please eat with caution. Eating too much will cause confusion in the brain, and people will have problems such as singing on high places, dancing to the moon, and laughing, scolding and cursing uncontrollably." Her eyes sank, and she looked at Shunhei worriedly. "You didn't eat this meat." At the same time, she also used the detection technique to check on his condition. "I've eaten it. You can eat it without worry. There's still a lot of meat. If it's not enough, I'll get more." Shunhei thought she was embarrassed to eat it, so he immediately smiled and showed a satisfied expression. "The meat tastes so good, you try it." Lu Yunxi looked at the system prompts and confirmed that there was nothing wrong with his body, and couldn't help but look at him strangely. "You?" she frowned, with a strange expression. However, before she said anything, she found that his Adam's apple moved unconsciously. He looked at the meat in the oil paper bag with some desire in his eyes, and clenched his fists hard to endure. Lu Yunxi. She immediately understood why he said that. Maybe he was afraid that she would be embarrassed to eat it, and had to share it with him, so he lied that he had eaten meat. "This meat is problematic. If you eat it, spit it out quickly." "What?" Shunhei raised his head suddenly and looked at her in disbelief. "Yes, if I'm not mistaken, the meat you ate today is problematic." Shunhei and his friends didn't have much meat to eat before, and suddenly they were given so much meat, which was indeed wrong. Shunhei finally regained consciousness, his eyes unconsciously solemn. "Why do you do this? Without the staff, how can those doctors control the patients? Be careful. It's best to hide in the room in the afternoon and don't come out. I guess someone will take action tonight at the latest." She crossed her arms and pondered, maybe this will be a good opportunity. Did the fox finally show its tail? "I know, I will tell you when there is news." Lu Yunxi's guess was right. The sudden appearance of drugged meat really meant that everyone was ready to take action. That night, the corridor of the mental hospital began to be noisy. Listening to the footsteps outside, Lu Yunxi suddenly opened her eyes. She waited patiently and flashed to the door like a ghost. However, 1 minute passed, 2 minutes passed, 30 minutes passed. People outside the door ran back and forth, and you could hear the urgency of the people coming out. But the door next to her has never been opened. Lu Yunxi's expression is a little subtle. It's not right. Don't they know that there is someone in this room? She pondered for a while, but soon interrupted this thought. Although these doctors don't know any medical skills, they remember clearly which room is occupied and which room is empty. Do they have to pick and choose people when they cause trouble? After waiting for a while, no one came in, and the sound of footsteps outside gradually became lighter. Chapter 189 Underground. If I go out now, I will definitely bump into people outside. Lu Yunxi thought about it and decided to go back to bed and take a nap first. When she woke up, it was already noon the next day. There was a bang on the door outside, and Yunxi woke up suddenly. This sound. She squinted her eyes unconsciously. Shunhei has a mild temper. When he knocks on the door, he is always slow and steady, which sounds very rhythmic. It is completely different from such an urgent knock that seems to be life-threatening. Thinking of this, her eyes flashed, and she lay back on the bed, looking at the sky with her eyes rolled up, pretending to be hopeless. It's time for lunch. The man knocked on the door for a while, then pushed it open by himself, shouting and coming in with a tray. Just like before, it was a bowl of soup and a plate of dry biscuits. When she saw the dry biscuits, she twitched the corners of her lips. Yunxi had heard from Shunhei that although the meals for this patient were the same, the quantity was controlled by the person who delivered the meals. The first time, there were not too many people delivering food, but Shunhei delivered more. Sometimes, he would even give her some snacks from their staff. But the third time, the dry biscuits were only the size of a palm, but he actually broke them apart. The biscuits on the plate were only a quarter of the original size. She was convinced. She had heard that some people would secretly hide the food for patients, and then maybe leave it for their families, or sell it. In short, it was a bit of profit. But hearing is hearing, and it was the first time Yunxi had seen someone do this. Looking at the back of the man who put the tray on the bed and hurried away, Yunxi was speechless. She had learned a lot. However, these things didn't matter. The trouble was that it wasn't Shunhei who came to deliver food today. You know, after the first delivery, only Shunhei was willing to come, and no one else was willing to come here. Shunhei didn't come today. Was he going to investigate? But according to his martial arts value, once he was discovered. Yunxi frowned secretly. She quickly dealt with a bowl of medicine and waited patiently for a while. When the patients were allowed to go out for exercise in the afternoon, she also took the opportunity to slip out. These days, Yunxi has been observing the people around her almost every day. She is very familiar with which patients, when they are allowed to go out for exercise, and what they like to do. She looked around carefully and found that all the patients who had come out in the afternoon had come out, not one was missing, and no one was disguised, they were all the original people. Yunxi walked around and fell into confusion. After thinking for a while, she began to look door by door. After a circle, she soon found that all the patients were still there. So what were those people running around outside last night? She observed repeatedly, trying to find out what was different. It was not until she passed Shunhei's door for the third time that she suddenly realized. That's right. The patients are all the same, but today's staff have all changed. Except for the people in charge of patrolling and doctors, everyone else, whether they were delivering meals or sweeping the floor, were completely replaced. Thinking that the drug was put into the staff's meals, not the patient's meals. Yunxi suddenly understood something. She hadn't thought of this for a moment. Logically speaking, patients are the vulnerable group, and the staff came here on their own initiative. It's too easy to be discovered if they attack the staff. How can ordinary people do this? While no one was paying attention, she quickly slipped into Shunhei's room. Sure enough, the room was already empty at this time. Touching the bed, there was only a bone-chilling coldness. The person on the bed had obviously disappeared for a long time. Yunxi twitched her eyes, not expecting this to happen. Soon, she found that there were traces of flour by the bed. He did say before that he would sometimes go to the kitchen to help cook. This should be because he was too anxious to leave the kitchen and didn't notice it. Looking at the traces of the corners of the quilt being twisted on the bed, Yunxi followed the smell of flour and soon came to the outside of the mental hospital. There was a big stone in a place shaded by trees. She fumbled for a while, quickly found the mechanism, and walked down the tunnel. The tunnel was not long. After passing through dozens of steps, there was only one room left. In the room, many people were tied up and thrown on the ground. Their eyebrows were lightly purple, and they looked like they were about to die. Even though she deliberately increased the sound of her footsteps, no one was awakened. Yunxi looked around and soon saw Shunhei mixed in. After taking his pulse, she immediately took out the elixir. A few minutes later, Shunhei woke up slowly. Where is this? Hiss. He tried to get up slowly, but found that he was tied up, and was even more shocked when he saw the surrounding environment. Are you okay? Yunxi said in a faint tone. Who is playing tricks? Shunhei was startled, and his voice became louder and louder, but it was obvious that he lacked confidence. She twitched her eyes and soon understood. For her, The basement was very clear, but for others, they might only see a dark mass. "Don't be so loud, it's me. There was so much noise last night. Do you remember what happened after you were caught, Miss Lu?" Shunhei finally recognized the person and breathed a sigh of relief. He also had the mind to think about what she said. I don't know either. I slept well last night. It seems that I had a nightmare and almost couldn't breathe. When I woke up, you were here." Lu Yunxi nodded. He didn't know anything, which was also within her expectations. "Last night I heard a lot of people running in the corridor, and you disappeared this morning," she said simply, and turned her head to look at the familiar face on the ground. "You had some flour on your hands and fell on the ground, so I followed away to find you. Now you are in the tunnel behind the mental hospital." Shunhei heard this and his expression changed. "This time I will probably be sent to another place. I should have thought of it earlier. I couldn't find anyone in the building. Maybe he was sent away. Are you sure you want to stay here?" "Yes, you go back first." He nodded affirmatively. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Lu Yunxi was helpless, watching him pretend to be unconscious again, carefully covering up her traces along the way, and closing the mechanism in the basement. After leaving the basement, she rolled her eyes and wandered around the first floor. Before, she only noticed whether there was a dark room sandwiched between the rooms, but she didn't expect that there might be problems underground. Since there is a basement outside the building, how can she be sure that there is no basement in the house? Lu Yunxi frowned, knocking on the floor constantly, listening carefully to the movement underground. Suddenly a light blue robe appeared in her sight. Lu Yunxi's heart skipped a beat. "Oops. I'm going to be discovered." Almost instantly, she had an idea, and she lay directly on the ground, moving like a caterpillar. "I'm a mop, the best and most beautiful mop." She showed a silly smile on her face, and sang loudly. The voice scared the people next to her. The patrolman paused, with disgust in his eyes. What a fool. Watching the light blue robe go away, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The gazes that were staring at her next to her gradually disappeared, and Lu Yunxi secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but her face was still silly, and she smiled and sang, "I'm a big mop, la la la." While singing, she knocked on the floor from time to time, secretly paying attention to the noise underground. The patrolmen have seen all kinds of people, so naturally they didn't take her silly appearance seriously. No one noticed, and Lu Yunxi's investigation speed became faster and faster. Bang bang. She lowered her head and knocked on the floor. Just when she thought the floor was solid, she suddenly heard a bang bang sound. Her face changed, and she became a little excited, and knocked again. After she knocked, there were two more echoes. She immediately put her ear to the ground, trying to listen to the sound below. Who knew that when she turned her head, she saw a familiar person lying beside her, facing her with an innocent look. The song Lu Yunxi was singing was suddenly stuck. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Lan Niang. Lu Yunxi twitched her lips. Seeing that the person next to her had occupied the place she was about to explore, she wanted him to move aside. Unexpectedly, the other person spoke faster than her, with a tearful look on his face. "Why are you like this?" Her body trembled, and goosebumps stood up all over her. What was going on with the tone of a woman in the boudoir? "What's wrong with me? Don't try to lie to me. I heard it all. You just told someone that you are a big mop, woo-woo," he cried with tears in the corners of his eyes, and two bags bulged on his cheeks. He looked very aggrieved. "Obviously I am the big mop. You are the golden mop. How can you lie to people?" Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes and finally remembered. The setting of her as a big mop was really borrowed from this person. She was a little helpless. "I'm sorry, I remembered it wrong. I'm the golden mop." Seeing that he was still crying, she had to coax him a few words and promised, "I will never call the wrong name again in the future. I remember it. I'm the golden mop." The big mop sniffed, as if he believed her words, and stopped making trouble. Seeing him lying on the ground obediently, Lu Yunxi breathed a sigh of relief and knocked on the floor again. But this time, there was no echo. She was a little confused, but she saw the person in front of her suddenly smiled and knocked on the floor. A familiar voice sounded in her ears. She suddenly had a bad premonition in her heart. She knocked on the floor again, and the big mop also followed happily and knocked on the floor. After repeating this several times, Yunxi couldn't laugh anymore. It turned out that the echo of the floor was made by the big mop. He seemed to think that she was playing a game with him. She crawled to the left, and he followed to the left. She put her ear to the ground, and he also put it. In short, he kept imitating her movements. She was a little helpless. In order not to be caught by others, she had to pretend that she didn't notice anything and let him play with her. Because there were two people, the patrolling people completely ignored them. With his cover, Yunxi actually found the hole in the ground. When it was late at night, she quietly avoided the patrolling people and came to the first floor. Unexpectedly, as soon as she went downstairs, she saw a hole in the ground suddenly opened on the ground, which was wide enough for two people. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. What a coincidence. She was worried that she would need to find a mechanism when she came down, but she didn't expect that the mechanism would be opened as soon as she came down. She listened carefully to the movement in the cave. There was a rustling sound, and she knew there were many people below. When she looked inside, it was still very dark, which should be able to block her figure. Yunxi pondered for a while and walked down the tunnel. The tunnel here is different from the one where Shunhei was imprisoned before. It is a long passage with many doors on both sides. It is more like wooden bars than doors. It is like a prison cell. Through the gaps, you can clearly see the scene inside the door. There was a little dim light after a long distance in the tunnel, so no one noticed Yunxi's existence. On the contrary, she saw many familiar faces, such as the previous staff, of course, including Shunhei. She was a little speechless. Shunhei also said that she could take the opportunity to sneak in and discover the secrets hidden in the mental hospital. In the end, after all this time, he was still imprisoned here? Yunxi did not go to meet him. There were other people in the cell where he was, and many of them were awake. If she rushed over now, she didn't know if it would be bad. She just looked around the tunnel and found that the only entrance and exit here was the place where she came in. She couldn't leave from other places, so she felt relieved and returned to the room. As soon as she entered the room, Yunxi immediately took out the pen, ink, paper and inkstone. The underground space on the first floor was very large. There were about 200 or 300 people locked up, but there was still a lot of space in the cells. In addition to the staff she had met before, there were many unfamiliar faces, who should have been locked up before. She recalled the faces she had seen in the cells and drew them one by one. After drawing the portraits of all the people, it was already the morning of the next day, almost time for lunch. She threw the pen, threw the portraits into the space, and lay down on the bed, sleeping soundly. Because she had been up all night and was too tired, the noise during the day did not wake her up. It was not until night fell that she finally woke up. There was a sound of footsteps outside. Yunxi yawned and thought it was the patrol until she heard the voice outside. "Sir, which room do you want to go to?" "This room is to the north, the wind is stronger, and it is more comfortable. The bathtub in this room is specially made and can hold 5 people. The voice was very light, as if it would be blown away by the wind, but the flattery in the voice was very obvious. Her eyes fixed, and she approached the door like a ghost, listening patiently to their conversation. Only the flattering voice kept introducing the room, and the other person only said him softly, without much emotion. The footsteps gradually faded away. With a click, only the footsteps of one person were left in the corridor, and the other person seemed to have entered the room. Yunxi narrowed her eyes, and when the corridor was completely quiet, she immediately slipped out of the door. The whole mental hospital was bustling. In the garden downstairs, the sleek horses, the neat convoys, and the well-equipped guards all indicated the arrival of guests. The dark room on the second floor began to bustle. Although the house was specially made of soundproof materials, the sound could not be hidden from Yunxi's ears. She listened to the rustling movement in the dark room, and was about to find a room to take a look, but suddenly heard footsteps downstairs. Yunxi paused and immediately hid in the dark. However, the girl passing by this time looked unusually familiar. Recalling what Shunhei said about her sister's appearance, her eyes condensed slightly, and she followed carefully. "Go in, the people who come today are all powerful adults. If you want to leave here, you have to serve them well." The patrol guard behind him pushed the girl into the room and closed the door. No one noticed that a gust of wind blew, and the door was opened and closed again. "Who are you?" The girl saw the door suddenly open, thinking that a guest had come, and was shivering, but who knew that it was a girl who came in. Who are you? I'm a patient here, this is my room. Did you go to the wrong place? Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed, and she didn't call out Shunhei's sister's name directly, but instead made an innocent look. The girl was stunned, as if she didn't understand. Being hospitalized in a mental hospital seemed like a thing of the past life. She recalled for a long time and finally understood. She looked at Lu Yunxi for a long time, a trace of pity flashed in her eyes, and she lowered her voice and advised, "You should leave here quickly. This is not a good place, don't stay here." "Humph. You lied to me. I can get good treatment here, and I don't need to spend money. As long as I work here in the future, it will be fine." The girl seemed to be choked, and her eyes rolled. In fact, the doctors here have been arrested and locked up. These doctors now are bandits. They deliberately pretend to be doctors, but they are cannibals. You should escape when the wind is out. Hide in the mountains, and leave quickly when no one is looking for you. What's your name? Why don't you go with me? Just call me Lan Niang. In my situation, where can I go if I run away? Lan Niang lowered her head a little depressed, with tears in her eyes. Lan Niang? Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed. Isn't Shunhei's sister called this? Thinking that the birthmark on this girl's body was exactly the same as what Shunhei said, she narrowed her eyes immediately. Just as the two were immersed in their own thoughts, there were bursts of footsteps outside the door, getting closer and closer. They were both startled. Lan Niang's pupils trembled, and she ran around at a loss. What should I do? Lu Yunxi's eyes just sank slightly, and then she quickly picked up the mace from the side and pressed her body tightly against the door. Lan Niang saw her movements and immediately understood what she wanted to do, and she gasped in fear. She quickly covered her mouth and dared not show it. Swallowing her saliva, she stood at the door, folded her hands on her lower abdomen, lowered her eyebrows and looked submissive. The door suddenly opened. Chapter 191 Fire. The door suddenly opened, and a big-bellied man walked in with a wicked smile on his face. Following behind him was a patrolman from the mental hospital, who pointed at Lan Niang with a smile on his face. "Sir, do you like this girl? If not, we have many other girls, pretty, charming, noble, all kinds of them." The two people in the room were silent. This didn't sound like a guard, but rather a brothel owner. "Not bad, let's go with her." The big-bellied man looked at Lan Niang's pale face, nodded with satisfaction. "You can go to my book boy to get the reward later, okay, as long as you like it." The patrolman clasped his hands together, smiled even more happily, turned around and said to Lan Niang with a stern face, "Remember to serve the master well." Lan Niang nodded with a pleasing look, and then said to the guest in a soft tone, "Master, please come in. What kind of tea would you like to drink?" The door was closed by the patrolman outside. Lan Niang breathed a sigh of relief without leaving a trace. Fortunately, they didn't notice that there was someone else in the room. The next second, the fat man showed a strange smile on his face, and walked up eagerly, trying to hold Lan Niang's hand. Lan Niang's face became more and more frightened, but she didn't dare to move at all. Lu Yunxi's eyes were sharp, and he picked up the mace and swung it. After a scream, the man fell to the ground, and blood flowed out. Lan Niang looked at the man falling in front of her, as if she was scared and covered her mouth. After hearing the scream, her face turned pale uncontrollably. "What should I do?" He just shouted so loudly. "I'm sure he will." Lan Niang was so anxious that tears were about to fall. Lu Yunxi had already heard the hurried footsteps outside. She put her index finger in front of her lips and hushed. Lan Niang immediately covered her mouth with both hands, not daring to make another sound. The patrol team outside the door quickly ran over and surrounded the door. "Is this the place?" The leading patrol guard raised a long spear and pointed inside the door. "Yes, sir, the screams just came from this room." "Shall we go in now?" "Wait." The patrol guard standing at the front frowned and listened carefully to the movement in the room. "Master, it hurts so much." "Woo woo, haha, sir, I'm awesome, right?" After a short pause, heavier panting sounds were heard. The patrol guard listened to the conversation in the room and his eyebrows moved unconsciously. He was silent for a while, then turned his head and slapped his subordinate's head hard. "Idiot. The guests are having a great time. What's the matter? If we break in now, you'll really kill me." The subordinate was slapped so hard that he almost fell down. He touched his head, a little aggrieved, "But I really heard someone shouting loudly in the room just now. Those are the guests playing." "You are so ignorant. Some guests are having more fun. The patrol leader waved his hand and said to the large group of patrol guards behind him, "Go away. Next time, don't report every little thing." Everyone agreed and went about their own business. Inside the house, listening to the breathing sounds outside, Lu Yunxi gradually felt relieved. Lan Yang stroked her chest, her mind gradually calmed down, and her IQ returned. "Who are you? You should understand what I'm saying, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have thought of such a solution just now." Lan Yang's eyes were a little inquiring. "Are you someone sent by the government?" When Lu Yunxi turned around, he saw that her eyes were like searchlights, looking straight at him. "I did come in on purpose." She suddenly came up with a good idea, with a worried look on her face. "I have a friend who suddenly disappeared. I investigated for a long time and found that he actually ran to a mental hospital, so I came here." Lan Yang seemed a little unbelievable, staring at her blankly, and then she exhaled deeply after a long time. "So that's it." She lowered her head for a long time, not knowing what she was thinking, and suddenly asked, "What's your friend's name? I have been locked up for a long time, and I know a lot of people. If you trust me, you can tell me his information and I will help you find it." Lu Yunxi thought to herself, finally said it. "I was waiting for this sentence. His name is Shunhei." She said the name slowly, and then described Shunhei's appearance in detail. Lan Yang stood up suddenly, her face full of excitement. "You know my brother." However, just as she said this, she shook her head and overturned this guess. "No, my brother is still in the academy. How could he come here?" But the more she listened to the person this girl said, the more he looked like her brother. Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed, and she was more certain of her thoughts. Lan Yang is probably Shunhei's sister. Shunhei was startled. "Miss Lu, why are you here? It's too dangerous." He lowered his voice and looked at the people sleeping around him. "You should leave quickly. There are often people patrolling here, and if you run into them later." "Do you know this person?" Lu Yunxi interrupted his chattering and directly opened Lan Yang's portrait. Looking at the familiar portrait, his pupils trembled wildly, and he snatched the portrait from her hand and looked at it carefully. Tears began to blur his eyes, and his hand holding the portrait trembled slightly, and one hand slowly touched the face of the person in the portrait. This is my sister." His voice became louder and louder because of excitement. He looked at her excitedly. "Where did you see her?" Lu Yunxi looked around and made sure that no one was woken up, and then she was relieved. "I found her in the dark room. A guest came these days and she was taken to the dark room. I just happened to run into her." Seeing Shunhei's face suddenly become ferocious when he mentioned the guest. "Don't worry, the guest was knocked unconscious by me. She is safe now. I will find a way to take her out later." Shunhei looked at her with gratitude and thanked her repeatedly. Thank you so much. By the way, take this sign. I have 2 subordinates who have also sneaked in here. Take this. My sister and subordinates will listen to you." His voice was nasal, and he hurriedly took off the wooden sign from his waist and handed it to her. Lu Yunxi took the wooden sign and nodded. With the wooden sign given by Shunhei, he returned to Lan Yang's room. Lan Yang's tears welled up almost the moment she saw the wooden sign. "This is what my mother left for my brother." Her eyes were full of tears, and she looked at the wooden sign with nostalgia. After a while, she looked up curiously. How did this get here? Since it was confirmed that Lan Yang was Shunhei's sister, Lu Yunxi did not hide anything. She told everything in detail and briefly introduced herself. "This guest is here, and no one will come to check for the time being. You can take advantage of this time to leave here. I will stay here and pretend that there are still people in the house, so it won't be exposed." After talking about Shunhei, she quickly thought of a suitable plan. Lan Yang frowned. "Even if you hide in the house, at most 2 days, someone will come to check the door. If I run away, I will definitely be discovered by then." She shook her head firmly. "By then, it will be difficult for others to leave here." "You want to save others?" Lu Yunxi frowned. Lan Yang hesitated. "It is very troublesome to rescue everyone, and it requires careful planning. I want to rescue my brother as well." "Girl, thank you very much for these days. You have helped us a lot. Please leave here first. I will meet my brother and then find a way to escape." No matter how Lu Yunxi persuaded her, Lan Yang was unwilling to trouble her anymore. She insisted on urging her to escape quickly and not stay in this dangerous place. After talking for a long time, Lan Yang still insisted on her idea. Lu Yunxi really had no choice. She threw a protective shield at Lan Yang, and after protecting her, she told Shunhei about it. "Let him, as a brother, worry about his own sister's affairs. Shunhei was a little helpless. After thinking carefully for a day and a night, he finally came up with a solution. Yunxi discussed with him for a long time and filled the loopholes in the plan before they acted separately. Chapter 192, Save or Not. In the evening, the quiet mental hospital began to get lively, but the liveliness was on the second floor. The first floor was still as quiet as ever. The two guards guarding the door couldn't help yawning. Are there any guests coming these days? So many people come every day. I haven't rested for several days. I'm too tired. One of them moved his shoulders and complained in her low voice. Don't say it. Without guests, how can we get money to pay our monthly salary? Anyway, it's just a matter of these few days in a year. Just get through it. The other person was scared all day. He looked around and patted him before lowering his voice. The other person also knew that he had said the wrong thing and didn't dare to say more. At this time, the guests who were still walking outside also came back one after another. The two people pretended to be energetic and stood at the door to cheer loudly. However, there were only a few guests. After it got dark, everyone went to the second floor. In order to ensure the safety of the guests, the other patrol guards only went to the first floor when they changed shifts, and they were on duty on the second floor at other times. The two gatekeepers were getting more and more sleepy. They stood there and gradually closed their eyes. No one noticed that after they fell asleep, a pair of dark eyes blinked in the dark and quietly moved to the back of the mental hospital. After a guard fell asleep, his head tilted and hit the wall. Hiss. It hurts so much. He woke up instantly, rubbed his head, muttered a few curses, and yawned. The air was filled with the smell of fireworks, and the warm feeling made him fall asleep again. Wait. The smell of fireworks. He opened his eyes suddenly and his eyes swept around. When he saw the raging fire behind the house, his face changed. Damn! The fire broke out, he shouted at the top of his voice. However, he had eaten too many irritating foods in the past few days, and his throat was so painful these days. His voice was hoarse and he couldn't shout loudly. He turned his head and looked around, trying to find some water to put out the fire, but he only saw his partner standing not far away, leaning against the wall and sleeping soundly. He gritted his teeth, grabbed his companion's collar and began to shake him. Wake up. There's a fire. It's a big deal. The other gatekeeper was shaken for a long time before he woke up, rubbing his eyes. When he saw the fire, he was so scared that his face turned blue instantly. There's a fire, he roared, and his roar resounded through the sky. The bad thing is that in order to ensure safety and privacy, all the windows here are built close to the ceiling, only the size of a brick. Although someone upstairs vaguely heard the roar below, more people didn't pay attention at all. The two guards wanted to rush in to report the news, but just as they picked up their weapons, they saw that the fire had swept out in an instant and approached their position. The fire is too big. If we go in, we might die. Let's not rush in, right? One of them said with trembling teeth. The other one looked at it silently for a while and nodded. Life and death are determined by fate. If God doesn't let them die, they will definitely survive. The two looked at each other and understood the meaning in each other's eyes. They quickly stepped back several steps, retreated to a safe position, put down their weapons, sat down cross-legged, and silently chanted scriptures to pray for everyone. Time passed little by little, and the patrol guards in the room were the first to find something wrong. They and the gatekeepers changed shifts every few hours. Seeing that it was almost time to change shifts, the shift guards walked to the door, but instead of seeing the two people on duty, they saw a raging fire. Their expressions changed instantly, and they rushed into the house to report the news. No one noticed that at this time, in the underground passage, in different cells, everyone lowered their heads and silently clenched the sharp stones in their hands. Oh no! Everyone come up to help! There's a fire! A roar came from above the tunnel. The patrolmen walking back and forth in the middle of the tunnel quickly picked up their weapons and rushed out in a hurry. In the cell, the imprisoned person instantly raised his head, with the cold light flashing in his eyes. The time has come. The person who stole the key rushed to the door and tried to unlock it, while the others helped each other to untie their restraints or help cut off the padlocks. Everyone was moving, but it was like a silent movie, with only the sound of chains colliding, and no other sounds. Time passed by bit by bit. By the time everyone successfully escaped from the cell, more than 20 minutes had passed. While the people in the dungeon were busy escaping, more and more people came to the first floor. At first, It was just the patrol team who was busy throwing water, but they were in the house after all, and the water in the water tank was decreasing little by little. If this continued, there would be no water left. Their lives were about to be lost, and they didn't care about other things anymore. They separated and acted in pairs, and hurriedly knocked on the door of the dark room. Is there water? What water? I was having fun, and you suddenly. Hey! What are you doing? Why did you take away the water we were drinking, sir? Is there any water in your room? No. Wait, don't rush in suddenly. Who are you? You're like a robber. Is there water in your room? Crazy. Don't come over, I'm still in the bathtub. Where are you going to move me? The situation was extremely urgent, and some guards didn't care. Even if some guests were taking a bath in the bathtub, they didn't care and directly moved the people and the bathtub down. Many guests were furious, rolled up their sleeves and were going to go downstairs to settle accounts. Many people were originally in high spirits, but they were knocked on the door by these guards and confessed in an instant. Not to mention how disappointed they were. At this moment, they didn't have the mood to do anything, and just wanted to scold those guards. The young ladies and gentlemen who were brought up to the second floor before didn't know what was going on. They looked at each other for a while, and then walked down tentatively, only to see several familiar people jogging up. Why are you here? Aren't you locked up underground? Listen to my plan. The people who were sent to receive the guests finally connected with the people underground, while the people on the first floor were panicked. The guards and doctors were fine, they just splashed water madly, not daring to stop at all, but the guests became nervous instantly, and many even started to curse and wanted to hit people. What's wrong with the people in your mental hospital? How can it be burned so easily? If I get hurt here, you can just wait to lose your heads. This place is too unsafe. Where is your dean? Call him out. Help. I don't want to die yet. Oh, God, you should pay the money. Bah. I will never come to play with you again. The dean wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, smiled repeatedly, and bowed everywhere to apologize. He secretly groaned in his heart. These guests were either from aristocratic families or powerful officials nearby, and he couldn't afford to offend them. What if something really happened to one of them? God bless. The people in the mental hospital were either anxious or numb, and a circle of people gradually gathered outside. Except for the two guards who prayed silently outside at the beginning, the others came from the mental village. They lived nearby and made a lot of money from the mental hospital. Now they saw that the fire was so big, but they had no way to deal with it. What should we do now? Should we help? One of them asked worriedly. The other villagers looked at each other, and no one moved. How much water would be needed to save such a big house from flooding? Even if people were sent to fetch water from the 3 wells in the village, they couldn't save it all the time. But if they didn't save it, the dean might resent them and never accept the people they sent over again. The village chief's eyes flashed, and the thoughts in his mind quickly passed through his mind. Soon, he made a decision. The mental hospital is near our village, so we should save them. How about this? Each household sends one person out, some to fetch water, some to deliver water, and the others to pour water here. As soon as this was said, the villagers started arguing. Everyone wanted to stay here to pour water, but carrying and fetching water was very laborious, and pouring water didn't require running, so they could just wait here. The villagers argued for a long time, but they couldn't come to a conclusion. Chapter 193 Prayer. For a moment, the villagers were in a stalemate. No one was in the mood to care about the blazing fire, and they were just busy quarreling. Yunxi hid in the woods and watched this scene, and twitched her eyes. Fortunately, Shunhei's plan was helped by her protective shield. Before taking action, she had covered the interior of the mental hospital with a protective shield. The fire would at most burn through the outer wall, but would not hurt the people inside, and she also put a layer of protective shield around the outside of the mental hospital, a double-layer protective shield to control the flames in a certain position and prevent the fire from burning into the mountains and forests. Otherwise, if they really had to wait for people outside to save their lives, not to mention that the people inside would not survive, even the people outside would probably be burned to death by the growing fire. The people in the village quarreled louder and louder, and in the end, they even fought. Yuliu family has many sons, 8 in total. It's not tiring to take turns. You should let your sons fetch water, your family members can run fast. Why don't you let your family members help carry water? No way. Why should their family members stay here and we have to go back? Looking at the villagers who were in a mess, the village chief frowned. Okay. Stop arguing. The veins on his forehead jumped for a while before he yelled, if you don't want to go, you can stay here obediently and follow the two adults guarding the gate to pray for the people inside. After saying that, he patted the dust off his body, imitated the two guards at the door, sat cross-legged on the ground, with a look of compassion on his face, and prayed silently. Seeing this, the villagers didn't want to continue arguing, so they simply imitated them and sat cross-legged. At the door of the mental hospital, dozens of people sat in a row at the door, clasped their hands together, and prayed. If there wasn't a big fire burning across the street, anyone who saw this scene would think they were very pious. Yunxi ignored these people and listened to the noise inside. She had made an agreement with Shunhei long ago. Once they really encountered troubles that could not be solved, they would shake the bell she gave them, and she would rush in to save people. However, after so long, there was no sound of the bell. The situation inside should still be under Shunhei's control. She thought for a while and then found a tree branch to sleep on. The situation in the house was indeed as she thought. The patrolling guards brought down the water from all the rooms and poured it out vigorously. When the water was about to run out, the fire at the door was much smaller. They successfully created a way out for themselves. As long as they crossed the narrow, ankle-high fire line in front of them, they could successfully leave the house surrounded by fire. Seeing this, everyone got excited and rushed out. Let me out first. My father is the local county magistrate, one of them yelled. When the others heard this, they also sneered and reported their identities. How? He's just a small county magistrate. My uncle is the governor of Green State. The governor is indeed powerful, but you are all relatives who hold office. I am different. I am the official myself. A group of people were arguing with each other, and no one was willing to give in. Shunhei twitched his eyes, winked at the people around him, and rushed forward to control the guests and staff. Quick! Knock them out and take them out. Let the girls and the old man go out first, and the others follow behind, Shunhei roared, watching the people in front rush out one after another. Outside, watching people rush out one after another, the gate guards and villagers sitting cross-legged outside were first shocked, and then their faces turned happy. The village chief laughed, haha. Sure enough, the method I thought of is useful. Let's pray more, as he said, he sat upright again, closed his eyes, and prayed silently. People rushing out. They looked at the group of people blocking the door speechlessly, their faces a little distorted. Good guy. Even if you want to pray, don't block the door. They had just rushed out when they ran into this group of people blocking the door. It was because of the heavy smoke inside and the constant tears that they didn't see it. Now that they came out, they saw someone blocking the door. It was really unbearable. They forcibly moved the person blocking the door away. Yunxi opened his eyes, sat on a tree branch, and watched the crowd rush out of the house. He didn't feel at ease until he was sure that no one was in the house. A terrible fire ended. The fire burned fiercely. Although it didn't burn to the side, the flames were very high and dyed a large area of the sky red. This matter was too big to be concealed. The government officials came to investigate the matter thoroughly. The officials who came here secretly were investigated, and the dean and doctors were sent to remote areas to repair the city wall. But most of the staff didn't know this private secret, and they were later arrested and thrown into the dungeon, but there was no punishment. There were also many smart people among the people who were captured. They shouted, "Someone must have framed us. Otherwise, such a big fire would have burned through the forest long ago. How could it only burn this house?" Unfortunately, no one paid attention to them. Thank you so much for this matter, Miss Liu. If you need anything, you can bring this jade pendant to Heiji to find me. There are Heiji stores all over the country. The shopkeepers will do their best to help you when they see this jade pendant. Shunhei held a box with a jade pendant in it and handed it to her with both hands. Yunxi took the jade pendant with a smile, said goodbye to Shunhei and his sister, and then embarked on a journey of experience again. The little donkey walked forward on the narrow path. Yunxi held a piece of grass in his mouth and a fishing rod in his hand. The carrot under the fishing rod kept swinging in front of the donkey. The donkey walked slowly. Suddenly, a sharp arrow shot from not far away, with the momentum of piercing everything. The donkey screamed in fear and fluttered its two front hooves. Yunxi quickly hugged the donkey and stabilized her body. She turned her head and saw two people chasing each other. The archery skills of the person chasing behind her were really worrying. He chased the person in front and shot arrows, but none of the arrows hit the person he was chasing. Instead, they were shot in all directions. Dodging these arrows left and right, Yunxi's expression became more and more speechless. Because at first the donkey wanted to scream and run away, but the arrows were shot at it densely, it was already scared. And now it could only kneel on the ground trembling. "Who are you?" Yunxi said in a deep voice. Could these two people be acting, and their actual target was her? Thinking of this, her eyes condensed, and she looked at the two people with murderous intent. However, she forgot that she was a master, but the two of them were far away and could not hear her voice at all. But in the mountains, apart from the two of them, the only donkey and the other person were naturally conspicuous. Soon, the person being chased noticed her and rushed straight towards her. "Second brother, run. The plan has failed," he shouted with full of emotion. "Yunxi?" She looked at the person behind her inexplicably and shot a few arrows at her. Although the arrows finally shot somewhere else, the feeling of being targeted was still very clear. Good guy. He really knows how to divert the trouble to others. Seeing the person being chased showing a sinister smile, he wanted to take the opportunity to escape with excitement. Yunxi curled his lips coldly and took out the weapon he had not taken out for a long time. As soon as the bow and arrow came out, it shot straight into the collar of the man, nailing him to the tree trunk. The person chasing behind him finally rushed over and looked at this scene in surprise. After staring at the person on the tree for a long time, he soon figured it out. "Sorry, I didn't expect this person to be a liar." "Didn't he hurt you just now?" he said a little embarrassedly. Yunxi's anger subsided a little. "Nothing, if this guy hadn't done it on purpose, you wouldn't have noticed." The visitor stared at the man on the tree for a while, and only when he was sure that he couldn't get away did he breathe a sigh of relief and look at the girl next to him. Is it you? Ms. Lu?" When Yunxi heard this familiar name, she suddenly felt a strange feeling in her heart. When she looked up, she saw Fu Yi standing in front of her with a look of surprise. "Mr. Fu, Ms. Lu. Why are you here?" Chapter 194 Save him. Yes, I came to the mountains to find some herbs." Yunxi laughed dryly, remembering how he almost got into trouble every time he met Fu Yi. He wished he could grow wings and fly away, but he didn't show it on his face. "Oh, by the way, Mr. Fu, what are you doing here? This guy actually stole things in the academy where I work. I caught him and chased him all the way here. I've been chasing him for several days." Fu Yi pointed at the person struggling on the tree. "If you hadn't stopped him, I don't know how long I would have continued to chase him. A long time ago, someone sneaked into the academy. It was probably him. Unfortunately, I chased him for so long, but he still got away." Fu Yi looked at the person nailed to the tree and snorted coldly. Who would have thought he was so arrogant? It's only been a short time? He's here again, and this time he even stole things. The person nailed to the tree stopped struggling and cried out loudly, "It's unfair. I've never sneaked in before. This is the first time. And now you've caught me." Yunxi was stunned when he heard this. She remembered that she had sneaked into the first military academy to listen to classes secretly. At that time, it was Fu Yi who chased her. If she hadn't covered her face and body, and her rank was high enough, she might not have been able to escape. "Unjust? How dare you cry injustice? Tell me, what is your purpose for sneaking in?" Fu Yi stretched out his hand to grab the man's collar and scolded him with a cold face. The captured person cried and shouted, and handed over all the things he had stolen from the academy, but he refused to admit that he had been in the academy before. There are not many people in the world who dare to sneak into the academy so bold. Who would believe it if you said it wasn't you? Fu Yi snorted coldly, and just refused to let go of the man and insisted on questioning. The captured person was so angry that he cried with tears and snot. Yunxi. She believed it. Looking at Fu Yi with an angry face and the thief with a collapsed face, Yunxi was a little embarrassed. She glanced at the two of them with a guilty conscience and found an excuse to leave. Fortunately, neither of them cared to pay attention to her, so she could ride the donkey away. Without the possibility of overturning, Yunxi relaxed again and let the donkey lead her forward. However, when she passed the path with a strange-shaped stone at the bottom for the third time, she finally couldn't help but stop the donkey. She scratched a mark on the tree next to her with a dagger, and then let the donkey continue to walk. Not long after, she saw the familiar path again. Staring at the mark she had scratched on the tree, she touched her chin thoughtfully. Xiao Mao, it seems that we have encountered a ghost wall. She patted the donkey, jumped down lightly, and pulled it to find the way. She has also learned a lot of the 5 elements and 8 diagrams formation, but the strange thing is that no matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like someone has set up a formation here. After all, no matter how invisible it is on the surface, the distribution of stones and trees on the ground and various traces will actually be somewhat different. She walked with the donkey for a long time, but couldn't find the exit. The only way was probably left by the person who set up the formation. The donkey was getting impatient because it had been walking for a long time and refused to move. Yunxi gave it the carrot in her hand, and wrote down the route around it before pulling the donkey to the only way. The donkey kicked its hooves, seeming a little dissatisfied. Seeing that the well-fed donkey was unwilling to leave, she had to leave enough food and water, put up a protective shield, and walked in by herself. After passing through the woods, they soon arrived at a village. There was only one road in the middle of the village, and there were 2 rows of neat houses next to it. Several big yellow dogs were wandering on the road. When they saw strangers coming in, they all barked. Yunxi had a light face and calmly walked through the crowd and came to the village. The strange thing was that she originally thought that she would start fighting with the villagers as soon as she came in, but it was not the case. The villagers just looked up at her and then looked away. They sat on the road, selling some things in front of them. Some sold bamboo baskets and hats, some sold eggs and vegetables, all kinds of daily necessities. There were patches on their clothes and their faces looked a little sad, but they were not aggressive. "Auntie, please ask." Yunxi took out a few copper coins and handed them to the old lady. "Where is this? I originally wanted to go to the mountains to collect herbs, but accidentally walked here. How can I get to the town?" The old lady selling vegetables saw the copper coins and her eyes lit up at first, but then dimmed in an instant. She took a few copper coins nonchalantly. "This is Long Village. Girl, once you come here, don't think about leaving. You can't get out of the village. Look, do you see that old man over there? He is the village chief of our village. You will go to him later and he will give you a piece of land." The old lady was not surprised and pointed to the old man not far away. "Just settle down." Yunxi asked a few more questions before he got a general understanding of Long Village. Long Village is a village hidden deep in the mountains. I don't know why, but suddenly one day, the people in the village could no longer get out, and they could only live a life isolated from the world. Fortunately, there is a salt lake nearby, and other vegetables, fruits, grains and firewood are not lacking. They can barely be self-sufficient, otherwise Long Village may have been annihilated long ago. Yunxi was a little helpless after hearing the news that the old lady knew. After talking for a long time, he didn't hear which news was related to not being able to get out. After thinking about it, thanking the old lady, Yunxi found the village chief. However, this was not the right time to talk. There was also a stall in front of the village chief, selling some tree carvings that were lifelike. But the person opposite the stall was not a customer who wanted to buy something, but a woman. "Village chief, please save my child. He is only 5 years old." The woman knelt on the ground, tears in her eyes, and begged with grief on her face. The villagers around who saw this scene did not stop, but shook their heads helplessly and hurried through. The village chief's expression was a little solemn, but more of it was helplessness. "Gauden's mother, I know your child is in trouble, and I feel very sad, but even if you kneel here, I can't save him. I'm not a doctor, village chief. Please think of a way. I kowtow to you." The woman sobbed, desperate. She had no other choice. She could only kowtow again and again, praying that the most powerful person in the village could help her. Yunxi looked at this scene and frowned. Could it be that there is no doctor here? She hesitated for a moment, but couldn't bear to see the woman in pain, so she stood up and said, "I'm a doctor. Auntie, if you can trust me." Before she finished speaking, everyone nearby who heard her turned their heads and stared at her with wide eyes. "Really?" The old lady rushed over and grabbed her hand. Being stared at by so many people at the same time, the cold sweat on Yunxi's forehead slowly slid down. "Yes, but I need to see what disease it is, so I know if I can cure it." The old lady seemed to have grabbed the last straw. "It's okay, please take a look at my dog." Yunxi followed the old lady and came to her home. Many villagers also came to see, and the village chief also came in with a cane. On the shabby wooden bed, a thin boy lay quietly, with his eyes closed and bloodless lips. If his chest was not still rising and falling, one would think he had already died. "What's wrong with him?" she asked casually. At a glance, apart from malnutrition, there was no other problem. He suddenly fainted and never woke up again. It's been 7 days. If it continues like this, I'm afraid, the woman couldn't help crying again. In the past few days, Gauden has changed from a fat and strong child to a skinny child, and his breathing has become weaker and weaker. How could she not be afraid? Yunxi frowned and took his pulse carefully. It was indeed a troublesome disease. Fortunately, when she was free to practice her medical skills, she accidentally saw a similar disease and soon had an idea. She pondered for a while, quickly wrote down a prescription, and after realizing that the medicinal materials here were limited, she deleted and modified it, replaced it with a medicine that could be found now, and asked someone to boil the medicine and feed it to Gauden. Chapter 195 Gold, Silver and Jewelry. The medicine worked quickly. Gauden woke up in just half an hour. The old lady threw herself on Gauden, crying with tears everywhere. Gauden, my son. You finally woke up. After crying for a long time, she wiped her tears embarrassedly and said with gratitude, Doctor, thank you so much. After that, she seemed to think of something, hurried into the house, holding a big box, and handed it to Yunxi. Doctor, this is a thank you gift. There is nothing good at home, so I can only give you these. Please don't despise it. As she said, she opened the box. The golden light was glittering, and it blinded the dog's eyes instantly. It turned out to be a box full of gold, silver and jewelry. The thick and big gold chain, shining with brilliant gems, filled the whole box as if it was free. The old lady stuffed the box of gold, silver and jewelry into her arms without any care. Yunxi's eyes inadvertently swept over the people behind him. Surprisingly, the people around seemed to have not seen the box of treasures, and their faces were very calm. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and they flashed unconsciously. Strange. Seeing such a large fortune suddenly, most people would be envious, and some people would even have malice. Why are the people here so calm? Although she was puzzled, she still rejected the kindness of the old lady. This is too much, it's just to treat a disease, it's not worth it. Before she finished speaking, the old lady interrupted her. Why is it not worth it? My son's life is much more valuable than this thing. Doctor, just accept it. The villagers around also echoed her, asking her not to be so polite. At that time, Yunxi still didn't understand why everyone was so enthusiastic and gave so much treasure until a few days later. Of course, this is all later. At this time, she had just received a large sum of money, and she was very happy and was shopping in the village. Uncle, your bamboo umbrella is not bad. Bamboo umbrellas are generally very heavy, but this uncle didn't know what method he used to make the bamboo umbrella light but elegant, and the pictures on the umbrella paper were all kinds of flowers, birds, insects and fish. Yunxi squatted on the side and took a fancy turn umbrella with plum blossoms painted on it. The painting of plum blossoms was extremely skillful, unlike other paintings with some rough spots. One can tell at a glance that this was definitely not painted by one person. Although this highly skilled painting is only painted on an umbrella, it is worth collecting. The old man glanced at the umbrellas mixed in. Girl, you have a good eye. This umbrella is the best one I have here, and it costs 50 kilograms of gold. How much? Did she hear it wrong? 50 kilograms of gold, or you can exchange it for something else. The old man closed his eyes, as if he was a master, and his tone was not fluctuating at all. Yunxi took a breath. 50 kilograms of gold to buy an umbrella. Is she crazy? This umbrella may become an antique in the future, but it is not an antique now, and it is not worth the price at all. What about this umbrella? She stood up in a daze, paused for a while, and then casually pointed to the umbrella next to her. The old man opened one eye and took a look, then quickly retracted his gaze. The umbrellas in the front row are all worth 5 caddies of gold, the others are worth 10 caddies of gold, and the plum blossom umbrella is worth 50 caddies of gold. Yunxi lowered her head to investigate. The umbrellas in the front row were all green, the others were blue, and the plum blossom umbrella was actually orange. How do I exchange them? Exchange? Are you sure? The old man seemed to be interested, and sat up straight in an instant, staring at her with burning eyes. I don't want the other things, I just want meat. The plum blossom umbrella needs a wild boar. The umbrellas in the front row can be exchanged for 1 caddy of meat, and the other umbrellas need 3 caddies of meat. Yunxi was secretly shocked. Originally, she thought she would hear something like Shy Ancient Snow Lotus that has grown for 100 years, 1,000-year-old ginseng, etc. But who knew? That's it? That's it. If it was something else, she would not be good at it, but hunting, that's her forte. Uncle, wait a minute, I'll go hunt a wild boar for you, she said, and then excitedly took the bow and arrow up the mountain. Not long after, she exchanged for the orange umbrella. The interesting thing is that this umbrella can actually be used as a weapon. It's a pity that she hasn't learned the relevant skills, but it's too tempting not to. Using an umbrella as a weapon looks cool enough. Picking up bargains makes people happy. Yunxi walked around the village for a day and bought a lot of good things. She also found that in this village, the least valuable things are gold and silver treasures. It is not worth buying things with these things. Buying some vegetables may cost you a fortune. The best way to trade is to barter. Each stall needs different things. Meat, eggs, butter and salt are the most popular products, and basically anything can be exchanged. Maybe because the people in this village can't go out, they often stay at home to study their crafts. The craftsmen here are all very good. At the end of the day, she saw no less than 5 masters. It's more than she had seen before combined. There were so many good things that she was like a mouse falling into a granary. She was overjoyed. After a few days of crazy shopping, Yunxi finally had the heart to think about other things. That day, the village chief found her and told her the request of their village. There are many patients in our village. Can you please help? The reward is gold. What do you think? The village chief was followed by several villagers, with red eyes and a pleading look. If you want meat or cloth, we will get it for you as soon as possible. The villagers around him kept nodding, as if they wished she could treat them immediately. She nodded. In the past few days, she also found out that there was only one doctor in the village, but he fell when he went up the mountain to collect herbs, and he has been in a coma since then, so everyone can only rely on themselves when they get sick. The appearance of Yunxi is a great thing for the whole village. But let me be frank. Although I am a doctor, I cannot cure all diseases. I can only say that I will try my best. The villagers hurriedly said, "It's okay. I'm glad that you are willing to help, doctor. Any more opportunities are good." Speaking of this disease, the villagers' eyes began to redden. Ever since our village was not allowed to leave the village, the villagers' health has gradually deteriorated. Later, they often fell ill. Look at our village. There are only 3 or 5 elderly people in total. The others died early. The village chief sighed deeply. And a deep sadness flashed in his eyes. How could he not be sad to send off friends of the same age one by one? Yunxi listened to the village chief talking about the past, nodded, and followed him into a large courtyard in the corner of the village. This courtyard is probably the largest courtyard in the village. In addition to the kitchen and the toilet, there are more than a dozen rooms for people to live in. Yunxi only took a glance and followed the village chief into the room in the middle. There were no beds in the room, only a thick layer of wood on the floor. The whole room was filled with mattresses, so densely packed that there was only a small path 1 person wide between the mattresses for people to walk on. There was a person lying on each mattress. Some of them were breathing with their eyes closed and their mouths open. Some of them had red cheeks, looking like they were wearing rouge, and some of them were sleeping but kept talking. Seeing so many suffering patients, even Yunxi couldn't help but be shocked. There are so many patients. A rough count showed that there were more than 30 people lying on the ground. Some villages only have 100 people in total. Hearing her incredible voice, the village chief's face was a little strange. Not only that, almost every room in this yard has people living in it, and there are about 100 patients in total. The village chief looked up and recalled carefully, but he hadn't asked about this matter for a long time, so naturally he couldn't figure it out. Please see them, hundreds. Yunxi's eyes widened and he gasped. This is a serious illness, and he has to stay in bed. In fact, other people in our village also have some minor illnesses, but they can continue to work if they endure it, so they don't pay much attention to it. At this point, the village chief's throat seemed to be a little itchy, and she coughed several times. She frowned immediately, and had a bad premonition. Could it be an infectious disease? Thinking of this, she immediately looked at the people around her carefully and diagnosed them one by one. Chapter 196 Poisoning. However, when Yunxi put her hand on the patient's wrist, her heart skipped a beat. What was going on? The pulse of the patient in her hand was sometimes rough and strong, and sometimes weak and thin. His face was red like an apple, and then green like a zombie. After thinking about it for a long time, she still couldn't figure it out. Sometimes the exploration technique can only show symptoms, such as coughing, fever, etc., but it does not always show what disease it is. Now Yunxi is at a loss. She pondered for a while and decided to go see the next patient first. Yunxi looked at all the patients in this room, but found that she was in big trouble. When she heard that there were hundreds of people, she thought she would not be able to rest for 2 days. Who knew that this was not just a matter of not being able to rest for 2 days, maybe 2 years? What the hell? Her medical skills are considered top-notch in the world, but now she suddenly encountered a lot of difficult and complicated diseases, all of which she had never seen before. Each patient in this room had a different disease, and she needed to carefully consider each disease and each medicine. Yunxi took a deep breath and asked to go to the next door to see other patients. After looking around, she had a large stack of medical records in her hands. People who could only hop and walk like rabbits, people with grass growing on their heads, people who could not speak and could only chirp like birds. There were all kinds of strange things. For a moment, she thought she had strayed into an illusion. After wandering here for a long time, she made sure again and again that she was not confused by the formation, and she couldn't help but sigh. In the following time, Yunxi had no mind to do anything else, and was busy treating the people in the village. The village chief was indeed not lying. It can be said that everyone in the village was sick. Those who could walk outside were not too seriously ill. It took half a month to be completely cured. But those people in the house were not so easy to cure. Miss Lu, something bad has happened. There was a sudden knock on the door, very urgent, and it was obvious that the person knocking on the door was very anxious. During this period, Yunxi had been busy day and night, repeatedly considering the dosage of medicine. Overwork gave her an abnormal headache, and she had only fallen asleep for less than half an hour. Her eyelids were almost unable to open, and she opened the door weakly. What's wrong? She leaned against the wall. Her voice was low and weak, and she leaned against the wall with her eyes half closed to avoid slipping and falling. Miss Lu, all the people who went out to find salt and hunt were injured, and they bled a lot. Now they haven't woken up yet. The visitor's eyes were blurred with tears, and his voice was hoarse from crying. Hearing her voice vaguely, he shouted. Finding salt and hunting, she repeated drowsily, and then suddenly shuddered. They are in trouble. In the village, everyone else was sick, and there were not many strong men left, so they had to gather together and go out hunting and looking for salt together. If these people were in trouble, then there would really be only the elderly, the weak, women and children left in the village. It's fine when nothing happens, but when something goes wrong. I can't find anyone to go up the mountain to collect herbs. Yunxi had a headache, and immediately picked up the medicine box and hurriedly followed the person who came. At this time, there were already dozens of people lying on the ground at the entrance of the village, bleeding, and many villagers were wiping tears beside them. Watching this scene from a distance, she immediately used several detection spells and found that they still had at least half of their blood. She breathed a sigh of relief and immediately used a blood recovery spell to stabilize their condition. She trotted all the way to the patient, and the discussions of the surrounding villagers gradually came into her ears. Oh my God! Why did you take my son away? Just take my life. Please, God, let my son live. Oh my God! Now the coffin I made for myself has to be used by my younger brother first. I spent decades looking for the best wood to make this. I don't know if I can still make such a good coffin. Yunxi twitched his eyes and comforted them a few words. Don't be afraid, everyone, they are not in danger of life for the time being. I wonder if you can help boil the medicine. Someone immediately wiped away tears. Let me do it. I often helped boil medicine before. I am very familiar with this job. Someone nearby also helped find a few shelves to use as a simple stove. Several stoves ignited flames at the same time. Fortunately, most of these people had external injuries, not difficult and complicated diseases. Basically, they can be solved with the same prescription, at most the dosage is slightly different. After looking at a few people, a patient suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes with difficulty and looked around, as if he wanted to find someone, until he saw Yunxi. His eyes lit up. Dr. Lu, because of excessive blood loss, the man raised his hand with all his strength, pointed at a man next to him, and gasped for help. Thanks to this man for saving us, otherwise we would have died in the hands of the wolves. How could we have a chance to come back? Please help treat him first. This is what we agreed on when we were besieged by the wolves. His voice was very low, and he finished the sentence with all his strength. Lu Yunxi looked at the man who was pulling her sleeves, bleeding at the corners of his mouth but still staring with wide eyes, feeling a little helpless. "Don't worry, I will treat him well." The man finally felt relieved and fainted with a smile. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. After Lu Yunxi made sure that he was fine, she waved away the people around her and ran to see the strange man. However, when she saw the man's face, she was shocked and stared in disbelief. Shen San, when this group of people were lying at the entrance of the village, they were all covered in dust. She didn't notice them for a while. If she hadn't come over and wiped the dust off their faces, she wouldn't have known that they were her apprentices. Then she thought that it was not strange to meet acquaintances when she returned to the forest continent. But she thought that Shen San and his friends would stay under the waterfall for a long time. After all, after leaving with Long Ocean, she found a way to throw a lot of supplies under the waterfall, whether it was food, drink or various kinds of elixirs, enough for them to live well for 100 years. "Miss, is the benefactor in a serious condition? Isn't he dying soon?" someone next to him asked nervously. Lu Yunxi came back to her senses and smiled. "Don't worry, they're all fine, but they just need to sleep for a few days." Everyone was relieved. A few days later, this group of unconscious people gradually woke up. Shen San was even more surprised to see her. "Master," the villagers around were shocked when they heard this. So the benefactor is actually Dr. Lu's apprentice. As expected of Dr. Lu's apprentice, he is so kind-hearted. The villagers became more enthusiastic when they learned that Shen San was Lu Yunxi's apprentice. As more and more villagers got better and more people helped, Lu Yunxi gradually felt relieved, able to rest on time, and even had time to go out for a walk occasionally. However, after just a few days of relief, a villager rushed over with a panicked look on his face. "Dr. Lu, it's not good. Your apprentice vomited blood and fainted." Lu Yunxi was suddenly startled. Wasn't Shen San's condition stable? How could it be so sudden? She hurried to Shen San and saw his apprentice with his eyes closed and a pale face, as if he would die in the next second. Shen San's condition was different from that of the villagers. His main problem was poisoning. Otherwise, with his skills, how could he be knocked down by the wolf pack? The toxin has accumulated in his internal organs and has not been completely resolved yet. She thought about it, and quickly poured a bowl of medicine into his mouth to wake him up. Shen San opened his eyes and couldn't help but smile bitterly. After going through untold hardships, he finally left the ghost place before, but who knew that he was poisoned as soon as he came out? If the master hadn't saved him in time, he might have returned to the rebirth point by now. "Master, thank you for your worry. If you hadn't saved me, I really don't know what to do." Cough cough. Halfway through his words, he suddenly couldn't control his cough, and blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers covering his mouth. Lu Yunxi was a little flustered and quickly reached out to stop him. "Okay, don't talk." She had a headache because she couldn't see the source of the toxins in his body, and there was still a lot of work to do to detoxify. What's worse is that Shen San himself didn't know that he was poisoned. It was only after she said it that he saw it on the system prompt, but it was a pity that it only said poisoning, but didn't say what kind of poison it was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Smart People. Lu Yunxi rubbed his eyebrows and thought for a while. He was about to ask his apprentice if he had encountered anything after coming out, but suddenly his eyes went dark. "Master!" Shen San yelled in fear. The villagers outside the house heard the noise and rushed in immediately. "Dr. Lu!" "No!" Dr. Lu fainted. In an instant, the whole village was in chaos. After a while, someone thought of the original doctor in the village. Fortunately, he had been cured by Lu Yunxi and woke up, otherwise there would be no doctor in the village, and it was unknown who would be asked to save Lu Yunxi. The bad thing was that the doctor was not very proficient in medical skills and could not solve any problems at all. But now there was only one doctor left. The villagers could not find anyone else, so they could only go to his house, carry him all the way, and told him about this on the way, and asked, "Dr. Cheng, please take a look at Dr. Lu." Dr. Cheng nodded. A doctor is kind-hearted, and it is his duty to help the benefactor who saved him. However, when his hand was on Lu Yunxi's wrist, he could not help but frown. After a long time, he sighed faintly. It's not good. Dr. Lu's body, prepare for the funeral. What? The villagers' faces changed. Shen San couldn't accept it. He climbed down from the bed abruptly. The blood at the corner of his mouth flowed all the way. He didn't care at all and just grabbed the hem of Dr. Cheng's clothes. Shen San was like a ghost, staring with bloodshot eyes, tightly grasping the doctor's clothes, and his voice was hoarse. Doctor, please save her. The doctor looked at Shen San with a headache. He originally only knew how to treat some simple diseases. For example, in Dr. Lu's current condition, he knew it was poisoning at a glance, but he didn't understand what kind of poison she was poisoned with at all, let alone what medicine to use. The villagers around also spoke up. Yes, Dr. Cheng, please help, at least let Dr. Lu wake up. She can treat herself when she wakes up. The villagers knew something about his medical skills, so they naturally didn't expect him to completely cure Dr. Lu. However, Dr. Cheng was still in a dilemma. His father passed away early, and many things were not handed over to him. As for his skills in treating colds, he had to figure them out slowly by himself. He was afraid that after taking a dose of medicine, not only would Dr. Lu not wake up, but he would send her away. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, he said with difficulty, "I'll try my best." As he said that, he moved his steps with difficulty and came to Dr. Lu again. It was only 2 steps away, but it seemed as difficult as crossing mountains and ridges. This pulse, the pulse on the foot is deep and thin, and the pulse on the inch is weak and powerless. The pulse suddenly changed, becoming wide and hollow, like pressing a scallion tube. This should be what medicine is used. The more Dr. Cheng felt the pulse, the more he sweated. Perhaps because he was too nervous, his sweat dripped down and his eyes even began to blur. With a plop. Oh no! Dr. Cheng fainted. The people around him were terrified and screamed. Shen San looked at this scene and felt terrified. It's bad. Without a doctor, who'll save the master? Plop! Oh no! Dr. Lu's apprentice vomited blood and fainted again. 3 people fainted in a row. And 2 of them were the only 2 doctors in the village. For a while, the whole village was in chaos. It was only because the village chief stepped in time to control it that everyone did not panic too much. Village chief, what should we do now? Why did the 3 of them faint? A villager looked at this scene and said worriedly. The village chief was also confused. He was not a doctor. How could he know what was going on with these 3 people? He pondered for a while, and finally gritted his teeth. Send them to a room first, let a few ants watch over them, and be sure to pay attention at all times. If anything happens, report it immediately. The other villagers looked at each other, and there was no better way, so they could only do as they were told. Fortunately, the village chief's guess seemed to be correct. Under the care of the ants, the conditions of the 3 people did not continue to deteriorate after a few days. That day, the village chief solved various issues in the village and finally had time to visit the 3 of them. As soon as he entered the door, the ant in charge of taking care of them immediately came up and smiled with relief. Village chief, Dr. Lu and her apprentice have looked much better, but Dr. Cheng has not changed much. As you said, they probably fainted because they were too tired, and they should wake up soon. The village chief nodded and moved closer to take a look. Dr. Cheng's bed was closest to the door, so he saw Dr. Cheng first. He was thinner, but not much different. When he walked around him and saw Dr. Lu behind him, the village chief frowned. He pondered for a while, and suddenly his face changed. Oh no! Dr. Lu is not getting better. Several aunties who stayed here turned their heads in confusion. What? But Dr. Lu's complexion is much better. No. When I was a child, I heard from the elderly that when some people are very sick, their faces suddenly turn red. It doesn't mean that they are getting better, but it may be worse. The village chief frowned and recalled, but he couldn't remember what the old man said about how to solve it. The aunties didn't know what to do. The village chief frowned and moved his hand on the crutch. After a long time, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind. Wait. When Dr. Cheng examined Dr. Lu's pulse before, didn't he say that Dr. Lu was poisoned? The aunties recalled and nodded in unison. Yes, but Dr. Cheng said that he didn't know what poison Dr. Lu was poisoned with. The village chief suddenly turned his head and looked at Shen San. Do you think that the poison in Dr. Lu's body was transmitted to her by her apprentice? Since many diseases can be transmitted to each other, why can't poisoning be transmitted to each other? The more the village chief spoke, the more he felt that it made sense. The aunties looked at each other. But, we have been here for so long, And we haven't been poisoned, according to the village chief. They have been here for so long, something should have happened long ago. The village chief waved his hand. You don't understand this, right? I heard from the old people that different diseases are transmitted differently. Some are infected by drinking the same water and eating the same things, some are infected by touching other people's blood, and there are others. In short, be careful when you take care of them in the future. Now hurry up and get some medicine. Take the medicine that Dr. Lu prescribed for her apprentice, boil it and give it to Dr. Lu to try, the village chief urged. After thinking about it, the aunties still listened to the village chief. There was no other way. The village chief was the smartest in the whole village. Who else should we listen to if we don't listen to the smart guy? The aunties seemed to be on a hot wheel and immediately started to work. After about half an hour, the aunties boiled the medicine and poured it down to Yunxi. A group of people gathered together and watched the scene nervously. Fortunately, although the medicine was not suitable for the disease, the unbearable bitterness still woke Yunxi up. She opened her eyes and met more than a dozen pairs of eyes. Drink, she jumped up instantly in fear. At this time, her head seemed to be hit by a few hammers and it hurt so much. She quickly held the edge of the bed and covered her head. Dr. Lu, are you okay? You are poisoned. Come and see yourself. This medicine is very useful, or I will boil another one for you. The aunties spoke in a flurry, making her head hurt even more. She rubbed her temples and waited until her headache eased a little before she learned about the situation from the aunties. Yunxi didn't quite believe that she was poisoned. After all, her medical skills were so great that if there was any problem, she should have felt it earlier. She put her hand on her pulse. Wait. There's actually something wrong, she was puzzled. Her body had been trained. Even if it couldn't be said to be invulnerable to swords and guns, it was not far from it. How could it be so sudden? She wasn't bitten by any animals, nor did she eat anything unclean. Dr. Lu, how can we save you? The village chief asked when he saw this. Wait a minute, she raised her head to stop the people around her from asking questions, frowning. It doesn't look like poisoning. After Yunxi felt her pulse, she felt confused. There was indeed something wrong with her body, but it looked a bit like poisoning, but not quite like poisoning. She herself was a little confused. Chapter 198 The Destined One. Yunxi first cast a blood recovery spell on herself, and then used the detection spell, Curse, you have been cursed. Leave the cursed village quickly, otherwise your body will only become weaker and weaker until you die. Looking at this system prompt, a light flashed in her eyes. Could it be that there is an NPC like Yunxi on the hill nearby? Yunxi still remembers that when she just came out of the mushroom village a few years ago, she found Yunxi on the hill near the town. Yunxi cursed all the nearby villages because of the unfaithful man before. Now this village is also cursed. Could it be that this is actually a plot created by the game company and randomly distributed to different villages? Thinking of this, she immediately asked the village chief. Village chief, so many people in this village are sick. Haven't you thought of any way? They were all sent away when they turned 18 and couldn't survive. Even if this village can't be sent away, at least the village chief should know some secrets. The village chief has a head full of white hair. When he recalled the past, he didn't react for a long time. We have thought of many ways, but none of them worked. When he talked about this, he frowned. He said that they prayed to the gods and worshipped their ancestors, and the doctor couldn't figure out what was going on. Later, there was nothing he could do, so he could only let things continue to develop. Yunxi frowned and continued to ask, Village chief, is there anything strange in the village? Please think carefully, this may be related to the illness of the villagers. Before, the mushroom village had to beat down the field mice before leaving. She had never seen such a strange thing in other villages. I think this cursed village should also have some strange things. The village chief frowned, but couldn't remember for a while. After all, he was old. She was a little helpless, so she had to let the village chief go back and think slowly, and she got some medicine to temporarily stabilize her condition, so as not to faint again suddenly. Fortunately, she discovered this inexplicable curse at this time, and she paid a lot of attention. The first thing she did when she woke up every day was to take her own pulse. After a few days, her health improved a lot, but she still felt dizzy from time to time. However, this was not the worst. After a few days, the whole village fell ill again. Their illnesses were mild and severe, but the diseases were still varied. She needed to observe and study each one carefully, which gave her a headache. On this day, she had just finished a follow-up visit and was about to go home to rest when she looked up and saw someone walking by with a basket and a pile of gold, silver and jewelry. Maybe because the basket was too full, a pearl as big as a pigeon egg fell out. A light flashed in Yunxi's mind, and she finally got some clues. She had almost forgotten about it after so many days of hustle and bustle. This village is really unusual. It seems that every household has a lot of gold, silver and jewelry. Thinking of this, she immediately rushed to the village chief and asked, "Oh, Dr. Lu, you asked, and I remembered it." The village chief slapped his thigh and suddenly realized there was not so much gold in our village before. It was later. Later, after it was renamed Long Village, there were many more treasures. The village chief thought for a while, not knowing what he thought of, and suddenly looked up at her. "Yes, I almost forgot about the village." He slapped his head. "Dr. Lu, maybe you are the one we are waiting for." After the village chief finished speaking, he took her out of the village in a hurry. On the way, he explained. Dragon Village was not originally called Dragon Village, and it was not clear what it was called. One day, a dragon flew down and landed in the village. The dragon was not sure whether it was injured or something, and seemed very tired, so it asked the villagers to help get some water for it to drink. The villagers helped together and took care of it for a while. Before the dragon left, it left some treasures for the village. With the money, the village was renovated and the villagers' lives became much better. 10 years later, when the villagers were about to forget the dragon, it suddenly appeared again. This time, it was even weaker than before. It made a deal with the villagers. The villagers helped it guard a treasure, waiting for the destined person to find it, and it gave a lot of gold, silver and jewelry, which were stored somewhere behind the mountain in the village. As long as you are from the village, you can go in and take the gold at any time. Yunxi thought of the gold that the villagers gave when they paid, and it was so generous. I think Shenlong gave a lot. Walking out of the village, about 1 kilometer away, there is a tree that looks like it has been burnt. The village chief walked around the tree for a few times, and he didn't know what he did, but he saw a door suddenly opened in front of him. This door was like the one when she entered the sect, and it looked very mysterious. "Dr. Lu, go in quickly." The village chief raised his hand to signal. "I go in alone." Yunxi frowned. The village chief nodded. "If you hadn't mentioned the gold and silver treasures, I wouldn't have remembered the things passed down by the elders in the past. You are probably the legendary destined person. As for whether it is true or not, you will know when you go down." Lord Shenlong ordered so. Yunxi hesitated for a moment and slowly stepped through the door. Unlike the leisurely and noisy atmosphere in the village, this place is a very quiet space, surrounded by a large area of charred grass and trees, which looks very desolate. The door behind her was suddenly closed. She turned around abruptly and saw only the expressionless face of the village chief. Her heart skipped a beat. Why was the village chief's expression so strange? She rushed back quickly, but the door had completely disappeared and she couldn't find it. After a long time of struggling, she finally gave up and turned to look at the charred jungle behind her. In the deep surrounded position, there were several large boxes. This place is not big. In addition to the charred trees, there are only these large boxes. These boxes are made of wood and look very heavy. Yunxi tentatively reached out and pushed the box open. The box was much lighter than expected, and it opened with a slight push. She was a little suspicious and threw a few stones in cautiously to make sure there was no mechanism, and then reached in. Swoosh! Yunxi's eyes turned cold, and she quickly withdrew her hand and avoided the attack. Dozens of arrows have been shot into the charred wood behind her, and her tail feathers trembled. She narrowed her eyes slightly, with a hint of coldness, and looked coldly at the village chief who was leading the group, and the familiar villagers behind him, with some confusion in her eyes. Why, are they crazy? Suddenly attacking her, aren't they afraid that she will never save the villagers again? Why? The village chief suddenly raised his head. Why do you say? Why can you outsiders get the treasures left by Lord Shenlong, but we can't? Dozens of villagers behind him picked up their weapons and echoed in unison, looking at her with dissatisfaction in their eyes. The things Lord Shenlong left for us are all ours. You are not allowed to take them away. Get out of our village. You robber, Yunxi, who inexplicably became a robber? Stop joking. You obviously can't open the box here, so you have no way, she sneered, her face a little ugly. You obviously agreed with Shenlong that the things here will be given to the destined people, but you suddenly broke this agreement. Aren't you afraid that Shenlong will come back to trouble you?" The village chief leaned on his crutches and closed his eyes silently. He didn't know what he was thinking about, and suddenly opened his eyes again, saying indifferently, "I am sorry for you, but the treasure left by Lord Shenlong must stay in our village. This is a plan made by the elders with countless efforts. As the village chief, he must follow the opinions of the elders and stick to it." Lu Yunxi looked at him with a look of confusion, and turned his eyes to the group of people behind him. "What about you? Do you think so too?" Everyone hesitated for a moment, but was interrupted by the village chief in a stern voice. "Don't listen to her nonsense. Don't forget what our ancestors said." The villagers woke up as if from a dream, and immediately sank their faces and looked at her indifferently. Lu Yunxi lowered her eyes and thought to herself, "It's a good thing that she used a protective shield for her apprentice before she set out, otherwise if Shen Sam fell into their hands, he would be dead or skinned alive." Suddenly, a flash of light flashed through her mind. "You guys got sick. Did you do it on purpose? In order to get the things left by the dragon, you deliberately made yourself sick. Isn't that too cruel?" The villagers were stunned and looked at her in disbelief. Chapter 199 Red Dragon. The village chief paused, but did not answer. "For our ancestors and our village, all this is worth it." The village chief did not answer directly, but Lu Yunxi had already seen the problem from his attitude. It seems that the villager's illness is not that simple. I'm afraid that the village chief did not know what medicine he used, which made the villagers sick. It's ridiculous that these villagers are still unaware and just think it's an accident. Lu Yunxi's eyes were cold. "Dr. Lu, please leave. We won't kill you." The village chief raised his crutches and knocked on the floor, with not much thought on his face. "After all, you did treat the people in our village, but don't think about taking away the treasure of Lord Shenlong. No. This thing was originally left to me by Lord Shenlong. How can you take it away?" Of course Lu Yunxi refused to give it up. Ordinary treasures are fine. But this thing left by the dragon, and it was given to some mysterious person with a predestined relationship. It sounds like something left by the predecessors of the cultivation world. She naturally wanted to take a look. What if there is something in it that is useful to her? For a while, the two sides were deadlocked. The village chief's expression became more and more serious, and Lu Yunxi also had a cold face. Just when the battle was about to break out, she suddenly had an idea and thought of a good idea. "Well, I want to take a look at the treasure left by Lord Shenlong first." Seeing that the village chief was frowning and about to refuse, she immediately interrupted him and said, "Village chief, don't rush to refuse. I don't think there are any gold, silver or jewelry in the box, but some books. I will leave them to you after reading them. In this way, wouldn't we all benefit? If Lord Shenlong asks about it, you won't be considered a betrayal." The village chief frowned for a while before saying, "You can read the books, but no matter what treasure it is, you must leave it to us." Lu Yunxi didn't say anything, but walked into the box silently. The village chief immediately led the villagers to surround it to prevent her from secretly taking anything away. There were really books in the box, and from a distance it looked like there were many books, but in fact the ones below were all decorations, and they couldn't be picked up. Only the one on the top was a real book. However, just as she opened the book, a strange red light instantly projected from the book. Lu Yunxi's eyes flashed with a cold light, and almost instantly opened several protective shields. The villagers next to them saw this strange scene, and their legs went weak and fell to the ground. Because there were people around, they fell into awe for a while. Lu Yunxi didn't pay attention to them, and his eyes kept chasing the red light. After the protective shield rebounded, the red light flashed back and quickly returned to the book. "Village chief, what was that just now?" A villager barely controlled his panic, squeezed to the village chief anxiously, and said with fear in his eyes. However, the village chief's face was also full of panic. Although he was old enough and had a lot of experience, the village was sealed many years ago. As a person who has never been out since childhood and has learned everything from his ancestors, he is naturally at a loss at this time. Is it the light of the treasure? I heard that those legendary treasures will have shining brilliance on them." The village chief pondered for a while before reluctantly speaking out his guess. However, this was actually just to coax the villagers. As the head of a village, he inherited the ability to open the door of the dragon treasure, and his ability to sense danger is extraordinary. The moment the red light appeared, he had a hunch that he would die. If it weren't for the translucent cover that suddenly appeared, he would have been dead. Thinking of Dr. Lu releasing the cover to save them at that time, He was secretly grateful, but when he thought that she was now their enemy, he couldn't help but sigh secretly. God's will is playing tricks on people. Yunxi didn't know what they were thinking, and secretly guessed what the light was just now. A light flashed in her eyes, and she calmed down, stretched out her hand again, and tried to touch the book in the box. The villagers gasped in fear. "Stop it!" The two young men closest to her held her hand tightly, as if they were afraid that she would get close to the box. "Dr. Lu, are you crazy? Didn't you see how dangerous it was just now?" She twitched her eyes, thinking that they were just arguing just now, and now they are concerned about her. "Don't worry, even if I don't open the book, you will always open it yourself, right?" She patted the shoulders of the two people around her, signaling everyone to calm down. However, when these words came out, except for the village chief who was still calm, everyone else was frightened and their faces changed drastically. "Village chief," they all looked at the village chief with pleading expressions. Seeing that their attention was not on her, Yunxi quickly opened the book. However, an ominous red light still flew out. This red light hit her hard, but was repeatedly bounced back by the protective shield. After several times in a row, the red light seemed to become a little depressed and returned to the book listlessly. While the red light was running around outside, she also saw the content of the book. There was no content. She flipped through many pages from front to back, but didn't see a single word. She had to doubt her judgment. Could it be that the red light was actually what the immortal world said, directly entering the human brain to transmit information? She pondered. The villagers surrounded the village chief, muttering and arguing about something. Yunxi hurriedly experimented, burning it with fire and soaking it in water, but the book was impervious to fire and water, and remained blank. After a long time of trying, she finally gave up. Although she didn't know what was written in it, since she couldn't see it, it was probably not what she was supposed to read. Yunxi thought for a while and walked to the village chief. "Village chief, I don't want to watch any more, please send me back." The village chief, who was discussing something with the villagers, paused for a while and looked up. "But I don't know how to leave here either." "What? But when you sent me in, wasn't it you who opened the door?" Her face changed slightly and she took a deep breath. "Can't you just open it again now?" The village chief shook his head. "I just tried it. I can open the door from the outside to come in here, but after I come in, I can't open the door to go out again." When he saw the red light just now, he felt something was wrong and wanted to open the door to send everyone away, but unfortunately. What about before? There must have been other people coming in before, right? Indeed, Lord Shenlong said that if it is not a predestined person, you can naturally leave here, but if it is a predestined person, Lord Shenlong didn't say. The village chief was stunned for a moment. "But you should be able to leave, right?" Yunxi was almost mad at the village chief. She exhaled deeply, not wanting to talk to them anymore, and looked for an exit around her alone. Except for a few villagers who were discussing things with the village chief, everyone else started looking for it. The red light just now had scared them. Now only by following Yunxi could they feel a little safe. The bad thing was that after searching the entire burnt land, they could not find any clues, so they had to go back to the box. Yunxi removed the protective shield on her body and opened the book without hesitation. The villagers next to her were so scared that their faces were deformed when they saw this scene, and they tried their best to stop her. "Stop it, Dr. Lu. It's too dangerous." However, they were still a step too late. The next second, she was hit by the red light. In the blink of an eye, the scorched and barren land in front of her completely disappeared, and what appeared in front of her was a dark space where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. "Who is it?" Yunxi asked in a deep voice. Although this space was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, there was indeed a breath here, which was very weak and difficult to detect without special perception. This owner who originally existed here might have deliberately concealed his breath. After waiting for a long time, the original owner did not take any action. Yunxi did not ask any more questions and quietly walked in the darkness. After walking for a while, just when she was feeling tired, a familiar red light came towards her with an unstoppable attitude. This red light was much bigger than the one she saw outside, but it gave people the same feeling, with an unspeakable malice. She paused slightly and easily blocked the red light. The red light stopped. She looked closely and found that it was a dragon. Chapter 200 Turtle Shell. Could it be that you are the dragon mentioned by the people of Long Village? The dragon stared at Yunxi with eyes as big as lanterns. "My destined person, you are finally here. Its eyes were almost touching her. She silently stepped back a few steps, looking at the red dragon. Her expression was still as calm as ever, but she felt a little strange. When she opened the book before, she felt that the red dragon wanted to enter her mind, but now it seemed that she had entered the world of the book. What is going on now? She rolled her eyes and soon covered the brilliance in her eyes. She looked confused and raised her head and asked, "Dragon? People in Long Village said you were looking for me. What's the matter?" The dragon, which was dozens of meters long, shook its tail. "My destined person, do you know where this is?" Yunxi blinked, glanced at the dark place around her, and her eyes flashed. "Is this a dream?" "Of course not." The dragon shook its tail, and a hint of impatience flashed in its eyes, looking very irritable. She secretly became alert, and her sleeves were already brewing moves, but in the end the dragon still endured and did not lose its temper. She lowered her eyes, secretly surprised. "Just now, it looked impatient, and I thought it was going to fight." The red dragon flew in the sky for a while before landing on the ground, slowly saying, "Actually, I asked you to come because you are the future savior of the Xiuxin world." "Oh?" She raised her eyebrows, her eyes flashed, and she looked confused. "What Xiuxin world? And, you said I was the savior. I'm not a good person." "You found the wrong person." The red dragon suddenly became a little excited, and his tail was almost swinging. "Actually, it's like this." The red dragon repeated the story of the Xiuxin world that the intelligent brain had told him before. Seeing that his statement was similar to what the intelligent brain said, she gradually felt relieved. It seems that the red dragon should have no ill intentions. However, less than a second after this thought came up, the red dragon suddenly mentioned a solution. And the solution it said was completely different from what the intelligent brain said. To save this precarious world, you need strong enough force. If you are willing, I can teach you. How do you teach me? I can enter your body, so that I can control your body and help you defeat the enemy. After saying that, the red dragon instantly turned into a red light and rushed into Yunxi's soul. Yunxi's eyes turned cold, and she finally understood the purpose of the red dragon. It turned out that it wanted to seize the body. She snorted coldly and fought with the red dragon without any hesitation. How could her own body be taken away easily? The red dragon was shocked. It originally talked to this girl to attract her attention and seize the opportunity to seize the body. Who knew that after running in, it failed to successfully seize the right to use this body for a long time? It couldn't help but grit its teeth secretly. "Let go. Give me your body. Can you fight? What if you encounter danger? Haha. You obviously want to take the opportunity to seize the body, good guy. Why don't you just be your dragon? Why do you want to rob my body? I heard that the dragon body is invulnerable to swords and guns, water and fire, and I don't know why it doesn't want to be a dragon." Haha. Hong Long suddenly laughed for no apparent reason. But his eyes were full of coldness. "What do you know? Do you know how hard it is for me to survive when the world changes? And you are just an ordinary person, but you have such good luck that you can become the savior of the future. Everyone is grateful to you and everyone respects you, Yunxi. I don't know whether others are grateful or not, but I know you are not grateful to me." Hong Long seemed to have not heard her words. His eyes were full of resentment. "Why? Why is it that you saved the world? You are just lucky and can be reincarnated. If I occupy this body, I will be the savior in the future." Hong Long became more and more excited as he spoke, and started fighting with her again. The two fought until the sky was dark, from sunset to sunrise, and from sunrise to sunset. The red dragon was an old antique who had lived in the world of immortal cultivation until now. His soul was extremely powerful and it was very difficult to fight him. However, Yunxi was not to be underestimated. She had reached the Grandmaster level by working hard all the way. In addition, this was originally her own body, so the two of them fought evenly. But it was not a good idea to continue fighting like this. Yunxi felt a little depressed. She thought for a while and finally decided to use her ultimate weapon, the tortoise shell given by the descendants of Xuanwu. In the dark world, Yunxi, who was only the size of a baby, really took out the tortoise shell-shaped box. The red dragon on the opposite side was shocked. "How is it possible? You are obviously just a soul now, how can you hold a weapon?" After saying that, it took a few steps back in fear, as if it was a little afraid of the tortoise shell. "Weapons?" Yunxi, who was thinking about how to open the tortoise shell, paused. She raised her head, her eyes flashed, and a light flashed through her mind. HMPH. Watch out, she snorted coldly and quickly threw the tortoiseshell-shaped box in her hand. The red dragon was so scared that it quickly scurried back, wishing it could fly away immediately, but it couldn't bear to leave. It had been sleeping for so long, waiting for this person to come for so many years. If it missed this opportunity, I don't know if it can still wait for this person to come again next time. Originally, Yunxi only heard the word weapon and subconsciously threw the tortoise shell out. Who knew that the tortoise shell actually emitted a burst of green light, like a green hat, covering the red dragon's head. The red dragon screamed and disappeared completely. Yunxi, who successfully regained the right to use her body, was relieved. She moved her hands and feet, checked her body again, and made sure that nothing had been done to her. Then she relaxed and picked up the tortoise shell. She was about to see what this was, but saw a flash of white light in front of her. She instantly put the tortoise shell into the space. Almost the next second after she put it away, the world in front of her changed. Yunxi returned to the burned place again. The villagers and the village chief had not left yet, looking panicked. "Village chief, why are you still here?" She thought that the village chief and his men had already run away when she was fighting the red dragon. However, when she was about to step forward to help up a few villagers who had fallen to the ground, she saw that they were desperately retreating as if they had seen a ghost. Yunxi? She was a little confused. She didn't mind when the villagers suddenly stabbed her in the back before. What were they doing? "You, don't come over here," the village chief pointed at her with a shaking hand. "Are you a human or a ghost?" "What? Of course I'm a human, you are too confused, right?" Yunxi was a little speechless, but she didn't force herself to get closer. She wanted to go outside to see the situation now, and she didn't know how Shen-san was doing. Seeing that she didn't continue to get closer, all the villagers breathed a sigh of relief and gathered together to whisper. "What should we do? I didn't expect that the destined person of Lord Shenlong is not a human. Village chief, why don't we give the book to him? She looked so scary just now. One eye was the same as before, but the other was red, like a ghost. Not only that, her voice was like a man's at one moment and a girl's at another. It was really scary. Let's apologize to Dr. Lu. After all, the villagers outside don't know the secrets of the village at all. What if Dr. Lu gets upset after they go out and arrests them?" Yunxi twitched her mouth. It turned out that when the ghost red dragon robbed her body, it really showed outside the body, and it scared a group of people. "No." The village chief looked at the uneasy villagers and said in a low voice, "Have you forgotten what our ancestors said? The things that Lord Shenlong left behind will be a great thing for our village and our descendants in the future." The villagers were very reluctant, but they still gritted their teeth and listened to the village chief. At the same time, Yunxi suddenly found a mechanism under the box, and twisted it hard. A door slowly opened in front of everyone. Yunxi felt the atmosphere on the other side of the door, and it was indeed a familiar forest. She stepped out without hesitation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.